news, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. Alright, let's try this again. Welcome, hopefully, to tonight's episode of the Iron Sysadmin Podcast, take number 2. Alright, guests and co-hosts, let's have an audio test. Can people hear you now?
Public take number 2. This is about take 27.
You're probably right.
How'd we do, J-Star?
Yeah, let's hear from the folks.
Hey, there's audio of guests in the stream now.
Awesome! I'm so happy.
He hears me. That's the important part.
Well, that's totally the important part. All right.
Let it go. Let it go. You can hear the podcast now.
All right. Give me just one moment here because I got to get logged into my Restream chat so that I can actually see you guys, because I had to switch from OBS to Streamlabs to fix the problem, which was kind of my last little ace in the hole there. So, just a moment here.
And if we didn't care so much about doing this live for our studio audience,
we would have just done it.
This would be a nothing burger, but we heart you guys.
Totally.
Stop speaking your emojis out loud.
What? Oh, okay.
Did a heart.
All the hearts.
Right. All right. On this here. Well, come on, let me paste. Can I paste the password? Don't you guys realize that nobody remembers passwords anymore, and you have to allow paste? Who are
you yelling?
How hard is it to remember password 123?
I'm yelling at Restream is what I'm yelling at. Because now it wants my token. Because I just like to complain is really what it comes down to. You guys know that by now. And now I have Restream chat. Okay, I think we can actually start a show. So, we haven't done intros or anything in this iteration of the stream, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm your host, Nate, for tonight's episode of the show. I'm joined by Uncle Mark and Jason.
Welcome
and our
to Groundhog
guest,
Day.
Right, welcome to Groundhog Day. And our guest, who's going to talk about home automation and a few other things, Avery.
Hey.
Aubrey,
Yay.
Whatever.
How's it going?
So I have one very important thing that I want to cover now that we actually have the stream working. Aubrey, if you listened to our last show, you may have heard Jason think that I did not know how many letters were in your name.
Yeah.
I haven't. I'm still behind on my podcast.
He swore.
See? It was 4.
He swore that 4 letters was not correct, and there are. I'm like, what are you talking about?
There are 4 lights.
All right. So what I need to do now, hopefully this doesn't break anything, because I need to pull my show notes out of that page and over to here.
Oh, you're playing with fire, dude.
I am, but I got it done. It's done. It happened. You guys can all still hear us, right?
What?
Say it again?
Oh my gosh. What a night. What a night. This is the fun.
Oh, what a night.
This is the fun. J-Scar in chat can actually attest to this. We have, as part of the Red Hat Accelerators, we've got a podcasting club that we just started in the past 2 weeks, right? And during the meeting we just had yesterday, where some of the accelerators were there, one of the questions they asked was, is the live stream really worth all the extra hassle on show night, when really all you have to do is record the show and you're good to go? Well, I said the interaction was the important thing, but now, obviously, nights like tonight
makes you
kind of make you wonder.
So, what I will say is I enjoy feeding off the energy from the chats. Right. I do get a kick out of that. So to me, it's worth a little bit of agita.
You being the one that gets to sit at the other end and just wait for me to fix it.
Yeah, but what you got to understand is I'm German enough that it drives me nuts when we're running late.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and tonight we're
definitely late. It drives me up the wall.
We're 45 minutes late. Sorry for all of that.
Right, so part of me is like, ah! Which is one reason why I drink bourbon on show nights.
Right.
But the other good part is, I finally got rid of this every other Friday TAM call because of some changes happening with a customer. So I'm super pumped about that. So I'm not thinking, oh, I didn't do an agenda yet for a particular company, and I have to get up early enough and deal with the dogs and eat breakfast and then do an agenda before 9 a.m.
And that's never
Now,
fun. You don't want to have to do that.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, my job, I'm hashtag blessed because I have nothing, I don't deal with poop or garbage or shoveling,
That
but
is a really good
you
point.
know,
Or even pager
still,
duty.
or even pager duty, but
All right, so let's go ahead and get stuff started. So the reason we've got Ivory on tonight is
because he's a cool dude.
well that and
While you were screwing around
some
with Jason and I got to know him a bit. He's a pretty good guy.
some of you may remember that we had an episode where we talked about PowerShell on Linux, and same dude, right? You might remember that show. If you don't remember that show, you should go back. I should have looked up the episode number, but it's probably 2, maybe 3 years ago at this point.
Well, that was
Yeah,
before
it seems
me.
like it's been a while.
It has been a
But,
while. It has been a while, and that show was a lot of fun. And well, I mean, Aubrey reached out to me and he said, "I've been doing some cool stuff with Home Assistant, and I think it totally relates to your show." And that's really all it took for me to see, like, yeah, that's great. Because I also have an interest in Home Assistant because I've been tinkering with some home automation stuff on my own. So this should be a fun show. So, Aubrey, you want to just go ahead and tell us what you want to talk about, and we'll just have a
Yeah.
discussion from there.
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of people, look at home automation. They buy a few products from Amazon and a few smart lights and I don't know, like a Nest thermostat, a Google Home, all kinds of stuff, and they call it home automation. When the way I think about home automation is not having four different apps to turn on your lights or jumping between apps between like for me at least home automation is more about a cohesive experience and and the way I look at it is I'm not trying to change the way I turn on a light instead of flicking the switch then yelling at the lady in a box to do it for me. When I'm thinking about home automation, I'm thinking more about uh, how the system can make your life easier without you actually doing anything, or I should say, uh, planning or configuring the home automation system ahead. So, for example, when you walk into a room and and the sun is up, then the light doesn't turn on. But when you walk into a room and the sun is down, the light will turn on, for example. Or if everybody leaves the house, then automatically all the lights will turn off. Or all kinds of stuff that is it doesn't require your interaction, but uh, that's what I consider home automation. Obviously, you can tie uh, certain things like the Amazon lady in a tube or the Google lady in a tube into those things, but they're not the main drive of the system. And another very important thing is that um, for example, Amazon had an outage not too long ago. Same with Google, and then all those lady in the tubes. Like if people were dependent on them for their home automation, all of a sudden their home is not very smart because they can't turn on a light because the tool that was doing that is down. And so what I consider home automation is like what I require in home automation is a few things. So when the internet in your house goes down, your home automation still works. Um, Another very important thing is to not be tied to a certain vendor, so for it to be versatile, so you can mix and match different products, different companies, mix it with your DIY stuff, and obviously I don't want to be tied to a specific company. And in the past, for example, I used to have smart things, and then Samsung bought them, and then they released like a new version, and like this hub that you had is all of a sudden useless because they discontinued this product. Or
That doesn't happen. What are you talking about?
yeah, or Google decides to decommission some sort of like one of the Nest APIs, and then like things change. So this is how I came across Home Assistant. So one of the things I really like about Home Assistant is that it's open source. So you're um, you're as a user, you have a say because if you know how to write code, you can help and contribute. Uh, the other thing is that if the company um, that there's a company behind Home Assistant, so you can support the project by throwing a few bucks their way. You can advocate like I'm doing now, tell people about it. The more people use it, the more people can contribute to it. Um, and if the worst case scenario and the company does something evil, then the project can be forked um, and continue living on rather than like the big companies that were doing all these different systems, and then the system becomes useless in your home. And the worst part about home automation is that you start investing and you spend money. It's not just the software that runs your home
Mm-hmm.
automation. If you have to change stuff all of a sudden, like for example in my house I installed smart switches in the walls in every room. So now I have to tear my house down because some company decided to shut down their product. So that's how I came across Home Assistant.
So let's
Uh,
let's let's dig just a tiny bit into Home Assistant. So I'm familiar with the project. I don't know if Mark or Jason are. I think Jason probably is. Mark might be.
I'm
Um,
taking a look at it.
but basically, let's just sort of summarize what Home Assistant is to anyone who's not familiar with what Home Assistant is. Like, how do you run this thing? What sort of time investment does it take? And what the heck is it supposed to do?
yeah. So the cool thing about it is that you can run it. Uh, you can, in many ways, pick the way you run it. So the easiest way to get started is to get a Raspberry Pi, go to their site, download the Raspberry Pi image, and flash it on an SD card, and there you go. You have the Home Assistant system running on your Raspberry Pi. It has like a lightweight operating system and the software stack that runs on top of it, which is kind of like it acts like a smart hub in a way. So it can connect to all your smart devices. It can run your automation. It can integrate with. It has hundreds, I think, of thousands of integrations of that, um, and uh, and it can talk to all these different things. So instead of having four apps on your Android phone for each one of the products that you would buy, you just install the Home Assistant app, connect it to the Home Assistant instance that you can deploy on a Raspberry Pi. You can deploy it in a virtual machine if you want. I think they have images to all the VirtualBox, VMware, KVM. Like pretty much, you can run it like on a take an old computer that you have lying around and
Can I
install it
put it
on
in a Docker
that.
container?
You can run it on a Docker container.
Perfect.
You can run it on a Python environment. Uh, they what I like to run is they have the supervised mode, which is what I like about it is that it's more than just the Home Assistant, let's say, application. It also allows you to run to install additional add-ons that are pretty much Docker containers, but it has like a management system, so you can snapshot your whole Home Assistant setup and then bring it to another system. So it's also has like the backup feature to it, It
That's handy.
also you can go to these add-on like this community add-on store and pick stuff
Here's
like
my Ring doorbell.
Pi-hole
Hmm.
or Bookstack or all kinds of or for example the I use Bitwarden, the open source
Mm-hmm.
password manager. So in a single click, you can, other than Raspberry Pi, other than the Home Assistant stuff, you can run other stuff on the system. So what
That's
I
handy.
like about it is that you don't need to know Docker. You don't need to know. You just need to, follow basic instructions. For example, to install it on a Raspberry Pi, you get a system going. And for me, it feels like a gateway drug. It also it's also why I reached out to you is because a lot of the stuff you learn dealing with Home Assistant can actually make you get you into a better to learn a lot of stuff that you can apply in the sysadmin world. Like you learn stuff like you don't have to because a lot of stuff is you can do in the web UI of like in the GUI, the web interface of Home Assistant. But some stuff you can configure using configuration files. Those configuration files use YAML. So you start with Home Assistant. You do a lot of stuff with the web with the GUI, but it helps you learn technologies. It helps you learn Docker in the backend if you want to package your own add-ons. If you maybe you run it on a supervised system and then you want to move to a Docker container, then you learn how to do that. It's pretty much, um, and you learn like the more you do, like you learn a little bit about networking. You learn like by building this system instead of buying a pre-packaged, ready-to-go system. You learn a lot about um, home automation. You learn about networking a little bit. You learn, as I said, about Docker, about all these different technologies that then you can go and guess what? It's a lot of this stuff is applied to your workplace. Then you learn how to build a Docker container, and then you go and you do it at work. And I find it like a very good. It's a fun thing to do, and it also has benefits for you. Like you can save money if you design stuff in your home automation properly. It's also fun. And it also can help you advance your career.
Pretty cool stuff.
uh, yeah.
So, how do you interact with this thing? Like, say, like in my case, and I know similar to your case, I've got a family to think about, right? So, it's simple if I, as the administrator who knows how to use this thing, can pull out my phone and operate the thing. But how does my wife do it? How do my kids interact with this if they need to turn on the living room lights or whatever?
So I can tell you, like, everyone has a different approach, but I can tell you what I did. So, for example, my wife, from her perspective, this doesn't exist. She can go to any light in the house, flick the light, and the light will turn on normally. So I installed, for example, smart switches. I replaced the regular light switches with smart switches. Those
Okay.
switches and Home Assistant integrate with each other. So she can press any of the lights and turn on the light and turn off the light. But Home Assistant can also do the same thing. So, for example, we have night mode. So when night mode turns on, there's like notification in the speakers in the house, and then eventually the lights start dimming, and eventually they turn off. So so it doesn't matter if the light is on or the light is off. Home Assistant knows the status of the light and it can control the light. But a person that comes in doesn't know how anything about Home Assistant can still turn on the light and use the light normally.
That's the
So
key.
yeah, so I found the uh, the way I integrated Home Assistant is I made it complement the regular usage, but didn't prevent it. So, for example, I created a switch that turns on guest mode. Now it doesn't really work because we're at home all the time, but pretty much like if I turn on guest mode, the house, the most of the function, like I created automation that look if this guest mode is on, and if it is, it stops some of the automation. So if we have guests in the house, they don't know anything about automation, like I just turn it on, and
So they don't
the
get
house won't be
confused.
as smart as
Yeah,
it should.
they don't get confused when
Um,
lights turn on by themselves and think that
yeah,
your house is haunted and things like that, right?
exactly, pretty much.
Yeah,
And
so I invested in a couple just kind of on a whim because they were on sale around Black Friday. A couple of these C by GE bulbs. They're multicolored
mhm,
and they integrate with Google Assistant, and that worked out perfectly because I've already got Google Assistants like all over the dang house. Um,
mhm,
I've noticed a few quirks with them, and not just from the I can't just hit the light switch and turn on the lights anymore, because that does work. If I turn off this light switch over here, the lights will turn off. If I turn them back on, they'll come back on whatever color I had them set to. That's handy. But it does require the Google Assistant, right? So I had to
mhm.
actually buy an additional Google Assistant for our living room where I wanted to put one of these lights because, I can't control them otherwise, other than from an app
Yeah.
on my phone. So it started making me wonder about Home Assistant. Home Assistant does apparently interact with C by GE, so I
Mhm.
may I may try that out. But the other thing was really I'm on this like thermostat thing where I was getting Google Nest thermostats, the Nest E, which is now gone. They don't make the Nest E anymore. They
Because
now
that's
make
what
the
Google does.
yeah, now they make another
Yeah.
Nest thermostat that's at the same price point, but it's controlled differently. And that really like that was kind of the last straw. It's like I don't really want to have to invest in nothing but Nest thermostats now. I want to invest in something that I can control in some other way. That found Home Assistant, and then it reminded me that you had brought this up because we've been talking about this for months. You brought it up quite a
Yeah.
while ago. Then you guys got sick, and then yeah, so it's like a
The whole
year
shebang,
maybe
yeah.
at this point. I think it was in the summer sometime when we started talking about this. But anyway, so this was very this is very related to what I have going on at home anyway. So this has been a pretty good talk so far. Um, from a home assistant standpoint, so you already mentioned you can run this on lots of different platforms. You can interact with it either with a smartphone app, or you said you can integrate your smart boxes, whether they're Google Assistant or Alexa. Correct?
Yeah. The thing is that the int- to get the Home Assistant and Alexa integration, it takes a little unless you pay for Nabukasa, they have like a subscription payment.
Okay.
I think it's like $5 a month. Then it's a bit harder to do the like it's not uh, super simple to get the Home Assistant integration with those devices. Just
Okay.
like as a disclaimer, but the I think the reason behind it is because Google charge like Google and I think Amazon, they charge some fee for when you make a, at least that's my understanding, when you make like an app, like as a, if I wanted to build a smart device and I wanted to create like an integration with Google Home, then I have to create like a development application on the Google side of
No,
things. And if you,
that doesn't sound at all like how they would
yeah,
handle
like
it.
what they're gonna charge you money to use their infrastructure? It never happens. So I didn't want to jump through all these hoops. So I am like as a disclaimer, I am paying for the $5 a month, but I also feel like it helps further the platform, and I rather give it to a open
Yeah,
source
I mean,
company than um so
I'm a
but
big
there is,
I'm a
yeah, go
big
ahead.
fan of if you can do a thing relatively easily for free, that's great. If you can do a thing difficultly for free and you have the time to do it, that's also great. If you can pay a small amount of money to save all that time, that's not such a bad thing, right? So I don't blame you for spending the money if it makes it
Sometimes a
work for you.
small amount of money can save a ridiculous amount of time.
Right, five
Yeah.
We
bucks a
were talking
month.
about that the other day.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, yeah.
the nice thing with if you pay this $5 a month, one of the things you get with it is the easy integration. You also get like a custom. It creates like a custom tunnel directly to your Home Assistant that you can turn off or turn on, but you don't have to fiddle with opening the router, like dealing with ports. So if it's a good way to start, like if you, as I said, what I like about Home Assistant is that you can build it. You do, for example, you don't even have to have any smart devices. You can install Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi and connect it to services you already have. Like for example, there's a Raspberry Pi integration to see if somebody's live on on
Twitch.
Twitch or YouTube or uh, there's a lot of integrations with web services that you can use, and you don't need to buy any smart devices. But obviously, uh, the more like stuff you want to do sort of in the real world, then like a thermostat, and you have no choice to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I also started like you. I in the beginning I would buy stuff that was on sale, stuff that I, now I'm buying devices that have the features that I want. For example, when I buy a light bulb, I buy a light bulb that has no cloud integration because I don't want anything reaching into my house and touching my network. And that's like kind of like in our next topic. So the light bulbs I buy are Wi-Fi light bulbs that run Tasmoda, which is an open source firmware that you can run on microcontrollers. So for example, the Tasmoda light bulbs, um, they use they have integration with Home Assistant, and that does not require any cloud. So if the internet doesn't work, my light bulbs still work, and um, and there's everything is local access, um, and and I replaced all my old light bulbs because I'm buying stuff specifically for that ticks all the boxes that I want.
So
And
just
yeah, go ahead.
one. There's a question in chat here. Speaking of, you mentioned local access and
Hmm.
these machines, because they don't have to reach out to the cloud. JScar asks, will it stay functional and running without an internet connection? So your
Yes.
home Wi-Fi is still up, your home network is up, but your internet connection is down.
Yeah, it will stay up. It happened last week. No, not last week. A few weeks ago, they had to do like a fix in our street, and they brought everything down for a few hours.
I wouldn't consider
And
it.
I have it connected to a UPS, so like everything was still running as far as Home Assistant.
Good.
Obviously, if your Wi-Fi goes down or
Yeah.
like
Yeah, if your network is down,
then
stuff's
your
not working.
network is down, then stuff is not gonna work. But
I want it to work if I don't have power. Come
Yeah,
on.
why does
hey,
it
you
not
can
work?
pay Elon Musk a few $1,000s and he can install
Put in a power
the
wall.
battery in the
Elon,
Powerwall. Yeah, but
Elon,
that's
Elon.
it's funny because if I'm not mistaken, Home Assistant has integration with like some smart cars like Tesla and stuff. Like you can
That's awesome.
you can see like your car charging, stuff like that.
That's
I've seen
awesome.
people put online. But back to your question. So um, you have you have a lot of options. So for example, in this house I live in, the the HVAC system is not smart at all, and it uses infrared. So I bought these cheap Chinese infrared blasters from AliExpress for like $3 a pop. I opened it.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, and I bought ones that specifically have the ESP 8266 microcontroller in them,
Uh-huh.
and I flashed them. There's a process to flash them with Tasmoda. So now the original software that they came with that requires you to connect it to the cloud and all that stuff is completely gone, and this thing is local control. So I can control my AC from Home Assistant using the these blasters. So
That's pretty cool.
and I have one in each room, and it works very well. And so so as I said earlier, you can kind of build your own path. So if you feel it easier to go with something that's like pre-packaged, then you can go with that. But eventually, I think most people uh, tend to fall on they want like the 100% privacy. No,
Mm-hmm.
they know what their devices are doing. Another thing you talked about thermostat. So when you plan to buy a device that doesn't talk to the cloud, that doesn't have any, then if you don't upgrade the device, it's continue working forever until it pretty much like there's a fault in the hardware, it stops working. So you like with all these, for example, Nest devices, they reach to the cloud, they pulled versions by themselves. Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
do anything, the device is changing on you, and then all of a sudden it can stop working. They can kill APIs. Like
Yeah. Now
we've
those
seen we've
the
seen a lot of companies like TP-Link had a few months ago had a smart plug that all of a sudden they like, oh, we're blocking the local access to your device, and it's pretty nasty when you buy something, you know it has specific features,
Then
you
they
buy it
change it
for
on you.
local
Yeah.
control, and then it changes on you.
Yeah. Now I mean,
um,
Yeah, my
obviously those.
thermostat upstairs, the SSL certs needed to be changed on it, and it won't read them from an SD card. So I have a smart thermostat that I used to be able to control with my phone. I'm in that very situation.
exactly, yeah.
And like it works, but I have to touch it, like
Right. And
like
who wants
like
to do
some sort
that?
of
No.
some sort
Yeah.
of friggin' barbarian.
It's
And isn't this like wonderful that you bought a device that's supposed to be smart, and then
yeah.
like
And
it
now it's
holds you
not.
hostage or it stops doing
So
its
it's
features?
it's worth noting, right? So cloud updates and whatnot are, let's be careful how to word this. They're important in that, um, you get security fixes, you get possibly new features, you get bug fixes and whatever that are automatically put on your machine, right? It's the reason
Hmm.
the Wi-Fi that I run now is updated automatically from the service that it runs from. However, it is that double-edged sword where they could change the way the thing works. There could be some feature that I'm depending on right now that they tweak because they think it'll be better, or that they remove because they don't want to support it anymore, and all of a sudden, the reasons that I bought it um, are not valid anymore because the thing changed after I bought it. Right, so it's not like a lawnmower where you bought the lawnmower because it cuts grass, and one day it gets an over-the-air update because grass cutting is not popular anymore.
So
You know what I
here
mean?
it's
And now
so
it just makes
yes.
smoke or something.
So here it's up to you. You want to update Home Assistant? You go ahead,
Right.
update it. You want to update your devices running Tasmota or whatever other thing you use? Then it's up to you. You can do it. It just nobody is shoving it down your throat. And another thing to take into account here is that a lot of these devices from these IoT devices from a security standpoint is that a lot of them have additional crap that, for example, the Xiaomi, a lot of the Xiaomi light bulbs, smart light bulb, have all kinds of SSH on them, telnet. Some of them they forget them open, like
Can I run a server on it?
so.
They better have SE Linux on them so that they can't
Yeah,
be blown
so
up.
Yeah, right.
and a lot of them go and they talk to the cloud. So for example, I have you don't have to do this. Again, it's you build your path. I use the unify access points. All my IoT devices are on their own VLAN, on their own SSID, and there's a firewall rule that allows them to talk to Home Assistant in specific ports. So um, from that standpoint, like you can also put them on all on the same network. It's up to you. You can start with one thing and then move to another. The
Mm-hmm.
more working or the more, um, but so you don't. Uh, so from a security standpoint, it's all local, so things are more secure. For example, I see a lot of guides, a lot of people open Home Assistant. They go to the router and they all open it to the world. I don't think it's a very smart thing to do.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's. I personally put and by the way, in the if you install the for the Home Assistant supervised or the Home Assistant version that like the Raspberry Pi one, um, that has the community add-on. One of the add-ons is WireGuard, so you can just open the. So if you run WireGuard on that system, you open the port just for WireGuard,
Then you can get to
and
it
then
from outside.
you can and then you have VPN. You can
That's
and you
handy.
don't open the whole, like more than you need. So
Yeah,
to
right,
speak.
and that's valid, right? Because not everybody that's going to be running this sort of a device is also also has network security chops. Some of us do, right? You might have your own
Yeah,
PICs at home or whatever that's defending your network, or maybe you don't, right? And you need some way to get in and manage the thing. So there was one other question, and this is a great little
sure.
transition into something else that you mentioned in the initial outline that you gave us to talk about. Josh or JSCAR is asking. He says, "Is this a good site to pick up devices from?" And he puts a link in chat. Or are there other sites that you can recommend? And the site that he linked is a site you provided, templates.blackadder.com. So you want to talk a little bit about that and if that's a good place to get? I mean, you included it for a reason, right? So.
Yeah. So I talked a little bit about Tasmoda. So
Uh huh.
Tasmoda is this uh, open source firmware for IoT devices that run. I don't know if they added additional boards, but it's mainly the ESP 8266 and ESP32 microcontrollers. So those microcontrollers have, it looks like this. I don't know, for those looking in the live chat, is this little chip. It has like a Wi-Fi antenna, and this one is the ESP32. It has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in it. Like this little development board costs like $3.
Nice.
Um, and so the templates.blackadder.com site have a list of devices that the community identified as it's like a prepackaged device that has an ESP chip and can be flashed with Tasmoda. So
Ah,
like it's kind of like a best of both worlds. You buy like LED light, or you buy a switch, or you buy but you replace the operating system, the firmware on it
it's like buying a
with
Windows laptop and putting Linux on it.
exactly putting Linux on it, exactly, which is so you don't have all the junk and this black box. You don't know what's happening in there. You actually replace it. Obviously, depending on the device, the difficulty. So, I mean, before you buy something, you should go to the site and look what it requires. Some of them you can flash over the air with this uh, tool. There's a lot of tutorials and stuff like that online, so we're not gonna get into it how it's exactly done. Some of them require soldering. Some of them require like a little USB to serial adapter that you connect to some pins on the device. Um, this is more like down the rabbit hole than buying something ready made.
Yeah, but it
But
gives you options, right? So
yeah,
like
and
if and it doesn't look like they're on the list, but just say, right, I bought these C by GE bulbs. Just say I could flash them. All of a sudden, the weird software glitches that I notice with these things could
are
theoretically be
gone.
wiped out, right?
Yeah.
But it does make me
Uh,
wonder because Lowe's is where I bought the things, and they had these other no-name bulbs there that I was hesitant to buy, and now I'm wondering, are they on this list? Because they were
yeah,
like half the price.
yeah, there are a lot of uh, devices from known brands like Martin Jerry switches, like light switches. There's a lot of stuff, and depending on the device, there's like variance degree of what you can do after you flash Tasmota on it. But I have a bunch of these devices. Like I have um, like all the light switches that I have um, are because a lot of these companies, by the way, they're like a sticker company. So
Uh-huh.
most of these devices are made by Tuya, and then like you can like put the name, your company name on it, and say like, oh, it's every smart switch, but
Oh
whoever
yeah,
makes the
there's
switch and
yeah.
everything is actually Tuya. It's like
There's
a
a bunch of
Chinese company.
manufacturers that do that same thing. Not even in this
Yeah,
space, but all sorts of spaces where you buy similar products from three different manufacturers, and they're all the identically same product, just with a different name
exact
slapped on them. Yeah.
exactly. So this is what I did. I found like the light switches that I liked, and then I bought them and I flashed the Smoda on them. But funny enough, the same light switches now there's a company that it's called uh, At Home or eight. I'll put it in the link in the show notes. But
Mhm.
they buy these devices, and you can buy these devices with the Smoda on them already, so you don't have to do any flashing if you want.
Nice.
Uh, you could buy it from, I think, AliExpress or something like that. But so yeah, so you can yeah, there's also I think there's another site that's like cloud ready something, cloud ready IoT, I think. Uh,
Now I'm
or
delving into
something like
looking
that.
at smart light switches on here.
Yeah,
This is gonna
so
ruin the show if I don't stop.
yeah, so there's a lot of devices, and obviously each device, like I do a little bit of research before I buy. Like before, when I kind of started, there were less resources, so I have to do, you know, like I didn't know this Blackadder site existed. So a lot of people actually look at devices that are getting like FCC approval, and they look at like the chips that are on the device, and they like find these uh, like ESP devices from those lists. So you can, but this is like the quick way to find like which devices are coming with whatever you want to get you started. You don't have to do all the
I
research
just
yourself.
I we've been looking at putting a dimmer switch in one of our rooms, and it just got me curious. Right, this is a need I have for a switch, so I went to that Blackadder site. I found what looks to be a dimmer switch, smart switch, on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. A 2 pack of these things is only $33. That's
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you just go to Eagle Hardware and buy a damn dimmer switch.
yeah. Well,
And
And your kid was the remote.
that's exactly what we were gonna do. Well, actually, we did. We bought a switch at Lowe's, which is just a dimmer switch, and it was $20. So this
Yeah,
is
I don't know.
cheaper, and
and you can read there the like what you have to do to configure
yeah,
this
I see
modem
that
once you
here. It's
put it
even
on
got
there.
it's got a
Uh,
template for it, and yeah,
yeah, and,
cool
and
stuff.
sometimes like they show you if you have to flash it. They show you like how you have to flash it and stuff like
Flash.
that. There's a lot of yeah, not that kind of flash.
Not that
not
kind
the
of
kind,
flash.
not the kind of flash that
Not the kind that gets you arrested.
You saved
Adobe
every one
killed
of us.
last year.
Oh, that kind of flash. I was thinking of a whole other kind of flash.
No, I was doing Flash Gordon, like the theme
yeah,
song from
right.
Flash Gordon.
There's
Yeah,
too
yeah.
many flashes here.
Ah! Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, well, Josh was asking for a song, and I've been letting
Mhm.
Avery talk. So, but I'm like, yeah, he keeps saying Flash, and my
Now
brain
there's
keeps wanting to do
now
that.
there's a song. Now there's a
What
song.
what I was doing is I was looking at the list of different, I'm going to call them plugins. They're probably not plugins, but list of supported devices and stuff that you
Mhm.
can use in Home Assistant. It's like, oh, my Roku, oh, my refrigerator,
Yep.
oh, my
Yep.
Ring, and so the big thing, what appealed to me was the idea of it being a single integrated place.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Which is
that
what I
part
Yeah.
was
that part's
saying
really cool.
earlier. Yeah. So it's kind of like a single
That
place
that
to.
resonated with me when you were saying that.
Another thing like to note in their integration. There's different types of integration. There's like I think cloud. There's pull push. So like
Mm-hmm.
cloud is an integration that depends on the cloud. So if like the internet is down, is obviously not gonna work. If it's
Sure.
pull, then it means that every once in a while, if I'm not mistaken, it means that every once in a while it pulls information from the device. And if it's push, then once in a while, it's like asking the device
It should
like
be a little
to
more
give
instant.
it.
It's just like
So
the
yeah,
old pull email versus push email, right? I remember when that was a
uh,
big thing 10, 15 years ago. Like, oh, my phone bings the instant I get my email now. Like, oh, that's just what I needed.
another cool thing to think about is that there's different IoT technology. So you have stuff that uses Wi-Fi, like all the Tasmota devices use the ESP chips that use Wi-Fi. But you have Z-Wave, you have Zigbee. They're not exactly Wi-Fi. They usually have, for example, the Philips Hue lights. They use Zigbee as the communication protocol, and they have a hub that
Is it
you
like a
can.
proprietary
These
radio?
I haven't
Like,
dug into it myself yet, but these C by GE bulbs, right? They're supposedly Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
They do not require a hub. They connect directly to the Google Assistant stuff.
Mhm.
But if I go look at my router where I have all my IP leases and whatever, they're not in there. So
Interesting.
how does that work? I don't know. Again, I
maybe
haven't
they're
dug into it yet.
IPv6.
That's it. They must be IPv6. I don't think they are
But
because it would show me those two.
so for example, the Philips Hue, the way they work is they use Zigbee. Zigbee is like a mesh network. It's you have devices that and then there's like a hub, like that's the gateway. So for example, I have a lot of like I have in every room I have like a multi-sensor that checks temperature, humidity, and if temperature, humidity, and something else. I think the pressure, the air pressure, and those are battery operated, and they're Xiaomi devices, and they use Zigbee. So, um, so what I did is I bought this little like USB stick. I'm not sure if I put it in the show notes, but it's called the Combi stick, Combi 2 stick, and what it does is like a USB to Zigbee adapter, so it acts as a gateway, so to speak.
That's kind of cool.
And I plugged it to my Home Assistant. I added it in the settings, and now I all of a sudden my Home Assistant can talk Zigbee, and I can buy all these Zigbee
Nice.
devices, and I didn't have to buy. So I can use it to talk to. So last week I bought a Zigbee smoke detector, and I'm gonna put it in the kitchen, and then it's gonna talk Zigbee, and
That's cool.
and 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 yeah. So you can. Another thing is, as I said, there's no vendor lock. Like you can start with Zigbee, and then maybe you don't like it, you go to something else. You can start with Wi-Fi, maybe you don't. So or
So,
you can do both of them. Yeah, go ahead,
so
Mark.
let me ask you something, because this is obviously always a concern for stuff like this, and I don't think we've talked about this yet. How how much of a concern is um, vendor lock, in the sense that you buy devices that are like totally closed, proprietary, and automation assistant doesn't work with them? Let me put that another way. Are there any particular device vendors that are bad players in this area? Like,
Oh yeah, heck
don't
yeah.
buy Xenophage's smart devices,
I wouldn't
because
buy his
they're
stuff.
totally
if
locked down.
if I'm not
I wouldn't
mistaken,
either.
so
Don't do
don't
it.
quote me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, like last year, Belkin all of a sudden said, "Oh, we're gonna put a subscription on all our IoT devices." So then you have paperweights that unless you pay, like it's kind of like a bait and switch. You buy the
Mm-hmm.
device because think about it like this: if there's a cloud component to your device, your sysadmins, you know that running servers is not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
They sell you a device. They can't run these servers forever. Eventually, like they either gonna charge you for it or shut the service down.
Right.
So
Or it's like it's a pyramid scheme where the new
yeah, like a
customers are
Ponzi scheme,
paying for
like the
the
new,
infrastructure.
yeah, exactly.
It's the
A
new
Ponzi
Ponzi
Yeah.
scheme.
scheme.
The cloud is the new
Hey.
Ponzi scheme. I love it.
But it is like
Yeah, it jumped the shark a while ago.
Yeah.
A
so
Fonzie
so
scheme.
so it
It's a
happens
Ponzi.
like it's it's every once in a while you see like you see it different places, but like in sometimes it shows up in the Home Assistant release notes where they're like, hey, we're removing this integration because the company is like locking down
They're
their
being
service.
jerks. Yeah.
Another cool thing is that why us, the end users, like uh, putting our weight behind something like Home Assistant they can provide feedback to those companies. So, for example, I think I talked about the TP-Link lights, the TP-Link plugs that remove the local access, and then there was like the community started like, hey, we bought these devices, and there was a feedback, and eventually like they brought back like the way, all
Nice.
this negativity, the negative publicity made them like reverse their thing or build a
Well,
workaround or
that
something
doesn't
like that.
usually happen. It
Yeah.
usually doesn't work that way. All right, so
So
this has been an awesome conversation. We could probably go on for like 3 hours,
forever, yeah.
but we're already almost at an hour, given the intro and the the issues we had at the beginning. So I guess now's as great a time as any. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to wrap up? Any last things you want to say about this particular topic before we move on?
Yes. Don't everything I told you about was a sales pitch. Don't do it. It's like a rabbit hole. Like you're gonna have too much fun. You're gonna spend too much money. Like you see this 3D printer that I bought. I connected it to Home Assistant, and I can monitor my prints from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I recently
Like,
got a 3D printer myself and put up an
it's,
Octopi to connect to it, and I
and
completely understand that particular rabbit
and
hole.
uh, do I have it here? Just one last thing. Like I printed I bought. So it depends how far you want to go. I I saw this project, this Wi-Fi NFC reader that you buy from all these component you buy from China. So I built that up, and now I have my son in his room has a little NFC reader, and with different NFC tags, and he can do anything and that's connected to Home Assistant. He can turn off the lights in his room. He
That's
can pick like
awesome.
his favorite songs from Spotify. He scans a tag, like a NFC tag, and it could pretty much do anything I want.
Years ago,
Like
you're speaking
just
my
for
language because years ago I backed a Kickstarter that has this ring that I wear that has an NFC chip in it, right? And when phones moved sort of away from NFC as a general read-write thing, it became less useful, but I still wear it. But having readers all over the house where I can key things with my ring would be awesome. Just
That sounds like the kind of a thing a supervillain would do.
right.
That's
and
one of the readers.
those ESP, like by the way, these smart lights that I have I just bought the LED strip that's like $15 on Amazon, and I bought like a pack of these ESP 8266 boards for I think it was like $2 each. And instead of buying and I flashed WLED, which is another firmware for LED lights, and you have like a smart light and stuff like that. So you don't have to put like a lot of money into this, but it's a lot of fun. You learn a lot.
It's pretty
And a lot
awesome.
of the stuff you learn, you can put into use in your work. It will make you, I think, better sysadmin. And I don't know, you might, like your family might
Rule the world.
yeah, and I can't wait to the point where I can actually build these DIY projects with my son, because he's like experiencing it from like the end user point of view, but it actually eventually like you can use them to teach them like MicroPython or all kinds of like fun things. So I think it's a great but yeah, don't do it. It's a gateway drug. You won't be able to like.
You'll
all
you'll
of a
never
sudden you'll have like servers
You won't ever
in
be
your
able to afford
house and
real drugs.
you'll never
Yeah.
have free time again. Yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
All right. Well, this
Uh,
has been awesome. We're gonna go to our usual break in the middle here. I'm gonna get some more beer because I need
I'm
more
gonna
beer.
get water.
I like more beer. And we will be back in hopefully just a few minutes. So thank you
Yeah,
guys for being
famous
patient at the
last
beginning
words.
here until we got things running. Hopefully we're not gonna blow things up by going to the waiting screen. So we'll see you in a few. All right.
But if we don't see you, have a great 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. No, we're not going to say that. No,
I'm just
we're gonna
being
be back.
super
We're
careful. Yeah,
totally-
our plan is to be back.
we're totally going to be back. Don't leave.
No man knows the hour that we will return.
Nobody
I'll
leave.
be right back.
All right. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/ironsysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/ironsysadmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysAdmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysAdmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysAdmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysAdmin. And thank you. We're back, and now we're gonna go. All right, we're back, and I think everything's working. I hope it's.
I
it's
seem
working.
to have rematerialized in one piece, Captain.
If anybody's still watching the stream, let us know if the audio went weird when we
Let
switched
us
or something.
know. Let us know. Yeah, or does
I'm
they'd have to start punching random buttons again.
hyper paranoid now that it's just gonna like all fall apart again. All right, so because before I restarted OBS, and that seemed to fix the problem. So I thought it was, I don't know, something weird. But it could be like having it open for a little while, it degraded, and like your Streamlabs gonna do the same thing. I don't know. Anyway, we're back now, and hopefully everybody can hear us. So we're gonna go through the usual part of the show where we go over announcements and whatnot. So bear with me while I bring my notes in front of me so I can read them to people. Here we go. All right, so Patreon update. We're still at the same amount as we were last time we recorded, $86 a month, which is definitely appreciated from each and every one of you patrons. A good cross section of which are currently on the show. So, thank you to all of you. I'm going to go through the list as usual. We got Root is God. We got Bruce. We got Robert, Matt, David, Solemn. Oh, he is a patron. I got to go fix that on our Discord thing. Anyway, we Solemn, we got Trooper-ish, we got Linux Sys 666, we got Gimpy B, Ryan, Mark with a K, Dementor, who's right there in that little box, John, the nice guy, Mark with a C, who's also in a little box here, Andy, Jay, who I think is also in a box here on the screen, Charles, and 22532. So thank you to each and every one of you for your patronage.
You skipped over one.
Who did I skip?
Julius.
During one of my comments. Okay, Julius, you are not forgotten. Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Nor are you in a box.
Nor you're not in a box on the screen. Mark with a K.
Okay.
Yeah, I see Mark with a K is in the chat right now. Thank you for being a patron. It's awesome. So.
All right, and that proves that people can hear us.
Indeed, it does. It proves people can hear us, which is a great thing.
Hey, Jason, I slid you a DM in Discord. See if you can open that.
Slid him a DM. That just sounds.
Wow.
Sounds bad.
Mark slid into my DMs.
Terrible.
I'm very excited now. Wow, this is kind of awesome.
Very excited. Okay. So, that actually brings us to another great thing to discuss in our announcements. So you might have heard that, like on our last show, and also via Twitter, because I announced it there, and our Slack workspace, and also the Matrix community that I have set up there. We've decided to consolidate our chat community into one location, and that location is Discord. I know it is not either of the other two that we had, but Discord gives us a number of benefits. Some really cool integrations with streaming setups like Streamlabs. It's just, I think it's a better, plus it's where a lot of people want to be. Simply by announcing it, we got a ton of people joining. The Matrix community was awesome. I really wanted that platform to be where we were going to stay because I like the idea, I like the concept. But if it's not where the people are, it's not a great place to run a community for something like this, where we want people to interact. So, we are now on Discord. And Mark will
much like the Little Mermaid, we want to be where the people are.
We want to be where the people are.
Yeah.
And Mark will forever make fun of the way I say the word Discord. Right? Am I saying it right this time?
You normally say Discord.
Discord.
Where you stress the second syllable, but you're saying, I think
Discord.
you've been trying hard lately.
Discord. It's Discord. And it didn't end up in the show last time, but I uttered this thing at the end of the show, which is now a soundbite. Discord.
Yay!
Yay! That's also a soundbite. And so's Homer. We still got Homer.
We should always have Homer.
And the creepy organ and all the usuals. Right, let me get back to the notes here.
Creepy musical organ. I feel we need to qualify that.
You're right here. I'm just going to go ahead and clarify that. This is what I meant. So, anyway, those are the announcements. Right, there's a link in the notes for where you can get to our Discord. Discord! Discord? Or Discord? Should I call it Discord? Say it like I'm from some weird region that has a funny accent, which, never mind.
Well, anyway.
Okay, and the last and final announcement is, as usual, if you'd like to get Iron Sysadmin merch like stickers and t-shirts, or there's even coffee mugs, I think, you can do so via Teespring. You can go to ironsysadmin.com, and there's a link for it on there, or just hit the link in the notes of this show. And we don't have any new reviews, again. So,
which, with this show, can be a good thing.
It can be. It can be a good thing. You were burned that time, and now
I'm still a little toasty.
Now you're like, nobody
even
reviewed
a pandemic
the show.
later. Yeah.
Oh, I remember that one, like the.
Yeah.
Oh, he remembers. Great.
He remembers. Everybody remembers. They all remember that
It's alright, Mark. We love you.
Our only truly negative feedback was about Mark.
That's all right. I've annoyed classier people than that guy anyway.
You're probably right. So, Mark, you got like a cool picture in here, and I see this cool little game system behind you. You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
I think you're excited about it.
I am excited. So, I finally went ham and bought a Raspberry Pi 4, and I see J-Scar is back in chat. And I have to be honest, he turned me on to this particular unit. There's a Raspberry Pi 4 in a metal case, which is Velcroed to this desk right now. Now, I've talked for years. I've used MAME before, like literally for years. Like I probably first used MAME. It was when I was still at Micro Warehouse, which would have been in the 90s. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Early 2000s was my first exposure to MAME.
And I've talked about maybe setting up an arcade station or something. Yeah, J-Scar turned me on in an appropriate manner. Thank you. Oh my God. But and you know, people build these gorgeous arcade cabinets, and I have no skill when it comes to building stuff, right? Like I'm not a woodworker. And you can obviously spend some coin to buy one that somebody else made. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that either. But what I can do is I can order shit on Amazon. So you can see the whole thing in the picture. When I did the desk that it's on, I bought the desk literally just for the setup. Everything in that picture I bought for the setup. So the desk was like $40. It's a small desk that you can change the height on. I bought the monitor specifically for it. The joystick is awesome. One of our other fellow Red Hatters bought this before I did, and he said good things about it.
The
Mayflash
joystick
arcade
and is the Pi inside the this little
No,
box?
the Pi is right here on the corner. It's but like I said, I velcroed it down so it can't be knocked off the table. The joystick is its own thing and can be used on anything that supports USB.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to do my best. There's a picture of this in our show notes, which I think I will be able to embed in the post that goes up on ironsysadmin.com with the show notes,
Right.
but it won't go out to the normal iTunes and whatever.
I also put it in Discord. So
Discord?
You know, it's in the general Discord channel. Yeah.
Discord!
There's a couple of games that require a trackball. There's this old classic called Reactor that I really liked, and that can only really be played with a trackball, so I got a trackball as well. So basically, I forced myself to have a setup that's dedicated hardware for this so that I'll use it. Now, I didn't know this when I started using RetroPie, which is the distro that I selected. It'll do the Apple as well.
That's pretty
the
cool.
Apple, yeah, and the Apple was the first computer, I've talked about it before, that I ever used. So what I've also been doing there is I've been collecting all those classic Apple II games that I used to play when I was a kid.
That's
So
awesome.
here I am. I'm booting DOS 3.3. The original
Yeah.
DOS, yeah. Loading integer onto language card. And if you're like, what the hell's this old guy talking about, then you're too young.
You don't get it, and you probably won't.
And
So
I'm
the
like,
question is, do you
I
have
was,
any Apple II games that you coded back in the day that can still run on this thing?
oh, I do not have any of those because those have been lost to time.
And
But I
is
do,
that a good thing?
but I have a couple of my favorites, including the original Wizardry, including Apple Trek. Apple Trek was amazing. And I had an epiphany because I couldn't remember how to list a disk in Apple DOS. And I'm lying in bed the other night. And I'm like, that's right, catalog. That's the LS or the DIR for Apple DOS.
Nice.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So run hello, and that'll start up Apple Trek, which is again loading integer into the language card. There's a whole story behind that. And then this Star Trek game, my dad, his best friend, and I spent many hours killing Klingons. Self-destruct password fish, and then you go around and you fight Klingons. And it's got these cool sound effects with photon torpedoes and phasers. It's so baller.
That's pretty cool.
It looks
Yeah.
like ASCII art.
It is
Well,
ASCII.
yeah, this is what
It's all
was art.
This was the height of technology in 1978. It will do graphics, although those are a little on the Apple. The graphics are a little crazy.
Does it emulate any of the Atari computers?
Does it emulate any of the Atari
Yeah, well-
computers? Well, it does. The only emulator that I've got for the Atari right now is the 2600.
Mm-hmm.
But so here is I got my favorites. Josh and I were messing with this. He added a bunch of emulators. So here's a classic one, and I've been scraping all the box art for various games because that's fun too.
Well, yeah, you need the box art.
So here is Adventure, which I don't know if any of you ever played Adventure.
I haven't, but it was like a main theme in a book I read.
Yeah, this is the one with the dragons that look very much like ducks.
Yes, yes.
And a sword that's an upside. I just killed the duck, who's a dragon. Yeah.
I have to say, this kind of stuff is why I hope game streaming will never succeed, because like we can
lose
still
this,
play we can still have like archives. We can still play games from years and years ago, and they're not like on whole, like the files are not on some cloud service that are gonna be shut down
Eventually go away. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
And what's neat when you play some of these games, some of the arcade games or some of the other games, again, I don't mean to sound like an old guy, but you run into games where the gameplay had to be king because the graphics were terrible
Yes.
or other things else.
Yes.
And so I've got very fond memories of a lot of these old school games. So
Yeah. Nowadays, it's really easy to take a terrible story and wrap it in awesome graphics, and everyone raves about it.
It is. And there are some great current games.
Let's not forget it was easy to do back then too.
Oh yeah,
E.T.?
yeah.
E.T. anyone?
I can ET. I
have it
showed
as
my
well.
son Josh ET.
There's still a landfill somewhere with like 85 billion of those cartridges in it, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. That's actually a true story.
I know.
But Josh was being driven crazy by falling into the pit, which was one of the poor design decisions of ET. And I tried to explain to him, Josh, you gotta get a sense of perspective on this. That game was so many kids looked forward to getting that. That was like their big Christmas present that year. And it was so friggin' bad. Like imagine that was your big Christmas gift and
it was just horrible.
And you're playing that turd on Christmas Day.
That game was built in a couple weeks.
But you know what?
Wow.
The bar was so low. Everything was awesome. Like if you managed
That
to get
wasn't
a
awesome
game,
though. Even when the bar was that low, that game was not received well.
No, it was not.
Well,
Some blame
bet
that
big on it.
for destroying the industry.
Yeah.
Well, they bet really big on it. They actually produced more cartridges of ET than there were Ataris in the world.
Yeah, they
That
did.
was not a good economic decision.
You're probably
No,
right. You're
no.
probably right.
No. They tanked themselves on that.
that
And
was
the majority of them just went to a landfill.
Yeah.
Because they had to destroy
was a-
them so they could take the hit on taxes.
and nobody is sad. Like,
No one's. I
no
mean,
one is
there's
sad.
somebody somewhere is sad that there is
It
a
was a big
pile
waste of
of
plastic.
microchips and plastic laying
They're
in a
probably
landfill.
they're probably extremely rare right now, and if like you're
Yeah, right. Right.
Not,
Everybody
Yeah,
hated
so-
this game, but somebody somewhere is willing to pay $32,000 for a cartridge.
but so I've spent the past week or so finding the old arcade games I spent way too much money on in the 80s, going through the Atari cartridges. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that one.
Totally legally,
and,
I'm
and,
sure,
and
right?
and the Apple II stuff. Well, so that's a really great discussion, I think.
It really is, and
The
you and I
concept- the-
talked about it just a bit, and I don't want to cut you off, but I am thinking that maybe we make a topic about that and your backup conundrum.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do its own show.
Yeah, I think we do that because we could totally talk about that for an hour.
Emulation, classic gaming,
Yeah,
abandonware, and I think Jason would be great because I know he dips
Absolutely.
his toes in this.
yeah.
So let's make that its own show.
yeah,
The
maybe-
other thing on the other side of technology, and Jason already cursed me about this. Valve Index, mothers.
Yeah, there you
I-
go.
I couldn't read the gauges on the Cessna 172, the
That's a
glass
terrible-
cockpits and
terrible
stuff
problem to have.
in Flight Sim 2020. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm done. So I upgraded my OG Vive to an Index
First world problem.
because you could just drop the headset in and use the same hardware.
Yeah,
Because
but on-
Flight Simulator 2020 is amazing.
On the bright side, I'm getting a great deal on a Vive headset as long as I
He
can
is
get all
getting
the
a
other
great
supporting hardware.
He is getting a great deal. He's paying, as my dad would say, he's paying the right price for it.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
You don't want an Oculus? You only need a Facebook account to use it.
Totally. Totally. I would totally do that.
just-
I
you
would
just need
totally
to-
link VR to Facebook.
his
Just-
Nate
just-
values his, what price freedom and privacy.
Yeah.
Just give away your privacy. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
So-
What wrong would they possibly do with that data?
What privacy?
Yeah, none of us have that anymore. I don't. As hard as some of us try, I think it's gone. It's just it's gone.
I've given up. And if you
To- to
follow
a
me on
degree.
Facebook, you'll see that on Flight Simulator, I'm doing a simulated trip from Allentown to Florida,
Oh, that's cool.
which is where my uncle used to hang out. And I stopped in D.C. to pick up my sister and her dog, and picked up my dad first in New Jersey. So I put their weight in the simulator. So it's fun, and I'm doing it legit, like with the real weather and stuff. And right now we're holed up in Duck, North Carolina for a couple of days because the weather turned bad. So tomorrow, if all goes well, I'll fly from Duck to Charleston, South Carolina.
This is crazy.
You should come to here to EMEA.
There you go.
Uh,
Fly there.
I
I don't
so
think a
I,
Cessna will make it
the
there.
Atlantic Ocean
Probably
is
not.
death for a Cessna, but I could. The thing about Flight Simulator 2020, you literally can go anywhere in the world. Like
Pretty
they
cool.
they use Bing to generate the entire friggin'
Yeah,
planet,
yeah.
and then
And
they
as
have
long
they
as-
do some custom work.
As long as the Excel spreadsheet had the right numbers in it when they imported it,
Yes.
things won't look completely
Yes, there
screwy.
was a fascinating. There was a very funny bug about that.
Two of them.
So I could come and watch Steisel in Israel if I wanted to.
The funny
Yeah.
thing about Excel and flight sims, does anybody remember Excel 97? And the was it 97?
And
And
there was
the-
an
Flight
Easter
Was
Sim-
it like an
And the
Easter,
Easter egg?
Yeah.
Flight Sim Easter egg?
There was an Easter egg in Excel 97 where if you went to a certain cell and put in a certain formula, and I forget what it was like XL 97 or something like that was the cell you had to go to, and I forget what you put in there, but it would literally there was embedded in Excel this like weird 3D world flight sim. It wasn't a good one, but it was there.
No, because it burned code in Excel, so they
Yeah.
couldn't make it a full feature. But so Flight Simulator 2020 is the other big thing I've been playing with lately. And Star Wars Squadrons, by the way, as good as it was on the Vive, on the Index, it's stellar. I can't say enough good things about the Index. It's just an amazing headset. Well worth it.
So I don't have a whole lot of cool things going on, except that I think I talked about on my last or on our last show that I was waiting on an Aeron chair, a refurbished Aeron. Maybe I was just talking to you guys about it. I forget if it was on the show or not. Well, I
That's more
finally.
expensive than the Index, I think.
It
An
could
Aeron
be.
chair.
Well, yes, if you buy one new. This one's refurbished. But even refurbished, it was like $600.
It's more than the headset was.
Okay then. So anyway, I went through a very like long and involved. Basically, I ordered it and waited forever, um, and the company never shipped, so I had to cancel that order. And I went to a different
No.
company, and it shipped in like a day, and I got it 3 days later. So I now have my nicely refurbished Aeron chair, and it's. I mean, when I unboxed the thing and set it up, it's like new. It is. There may be a few things that, a few bits of fit and polish that aren't quite perfect because it is refurbished, but everything I remember about the Aeron that I had when I was still working in higher ed, this thing is identical. It feels like a brand new chair. So
I've
it's
heard
great.
good things about them.
Yeah,
They have
I'm,
those
I'm
at
very
the,
happy.
they have those at Red Hat Tower, I think. I've sat in them
I,
there.
I love my Aeron. It's one of the first things I got when I got my new office.
Yeah, it's great. And the thing that I love, and this is like a silly thing to love about a $600 chair, is the fact that I can actually adjust the armrests to the point where my arms sit at a great angle to type on the new keyboard that I got, right? So, yes, there's other
Pretty
chairs that
important.
have adjustable armrests, but this one has the whole package, right? It's comfortable, it's mesh, so you don't like sweat sitting in the damn chair. The
Right.
recline is at just the right angle. It's fully adjustable. It's a great chair. If you have a cheap chair and you don't mind spending money on a chair you're going to sit in for 16 hours a day or however much time you spend at your
Especially
computer.
now with the work from home thing
Yes.
is like a must.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
mean,
face it, nerds always spend 16 hours a day in their chairs.
oh yeah.
Come on.
Well, that's the thing, right? I didn't say
Yeah.
8 hours. My
Not
job
in
is
a
8 hours.
global pandemic.
My job is eight
So-
hours, and I spend at least another 6 to 7 hours a day at this very desk, either working on creative projects like this podcast, or playing video games, or just googling stuff, or whatever. Right? I'm at this thing all the time, so it's important to have a good chair.
Yeah, so lest our listeners think that we're just rolling in dough, I know I saved for my chair for a very long time before I was.
Oh yeah,
and I think Nate did the same thing.
Red
so-
Hat paid for half of this, and the other half was money I had saved up for it.
Yeah.
So, and there's a reason I didn't buy a brand new one. A brand new one is like $1,200. This one was half the price,
Damn.
right? So yeah, there's no way I was gonna. I mean, I could have saved longer and got a brand new one, but
Yeah,
I didn't
I'm-
wanna
I'm
wait
one
that
of
long.
those- I don't like refurbs, so I bought mine new. But
oh,
I
believe
saved
me, I was
for-
worried. I was worried about
Yeah.
it, but I am very pleased. I got it from Crandall Seating. No, Crandall Office. Crandall Office is the company that I got it from, and they have a lot of other brands out there, and I highly recommend them because this thing is in great quality and it shipped super fast. I don't know if I was just lucky they had them in stock, but the other one I ordered from was a place called Madison Seating, and after I ordered it and waited
Not so
6
fast?
weeks and never got anything, they never even charged me, right? Because they said they didn't have them in stock or whatever. I started doing some reading on like the Better Business Bureau and whatnot, and I kept finding all these terrible reviews, which I should have done before I ordered the damn thing. So I ended up canceling the order, and luckily they didn't give me some crazy runaround. They just said, "Yep, okay, let's cancel," and I ordered from the other place and got it like perfect. So
So read reviews before you order.
yes,
Got
before
it.
you spend $600 on an office chair, read the reviews of the place you're ordering it from. I don't know why I didn't do that. But
Yeah,
man.
and in general, like if you are a person who spends a lot of time in front of a computer, spending a decent amount of money for a good chair is a worthy investment since
Yeah.
your body is what you're protecting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important. I mean, I think I also mentioned this. I was having some wrist and forearm problems, and I'm not going to say that the chair and the keyboard, because I bought the ergonomic keyboard, I'm not going to say they 100% solved the problem, but it's definitely better. Like just switching
Hey,
from a
you-
straight
You got one of
keyboard.
those- you got a crooked keyboard?
I got a Kinesis Gaming. It's a split keyboard with tent
Oh.
stands.
No, thank you.
You don't like them?
Oh,
I didn't
can't
think I was
take-
going to like it either, but man, it is so
keyboards
comfortable.
Should be like they
Dude,
need to be like
It is so
Oh.
it is so comfortable to type on. I don't like them either. In fact, years and years and years ago, I used one of those Microsoft ergonomic keyboards, which are one of the highest rated ergonomic keyboards out there.
Oh,
They've been
those are
around
even
forever.
worse. Yeah.
Well, you might think, right, from you say they're worse. I hated it, and I didn't want to use it anymore. I went back to a straight keyboard. And I thought I
Yeah.
was going to have the same problem when I did this, but I would bite the bullet and say, fine, I
Oh,
want to protect my wrists and whatever, and I'll use the thing. And I got to say, I do not regret it at all. It's perfect.
I have used ergonomic keyboards. I've used a whole bunch of different types of them. I just cannot. I can't stand them. They drive me nuts.
Yeah, it's
So
if you're like if it works like the muscle like I find it hard too because of muscle memory. Like
Yeah.
when I moved back to Israel, a lot of the keyboards here have like the enter that's instead of like a shift, it goes up. It's like the European version, and I
Okay.
kept asking, I kept nagging like the the facilities to replace my keyboard because I couldn't use it. I kept pressing like I wanted to press shift and I kept pressing enter. It's like it driving me bonkers.
Yeah,
But
no,
if
I
it
can
works
understand
for
that.
you with
It's,
Linux, that couldn't possibly go wrong.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, no,
But-
I'm very picky about keyboards to the point where the keyboard I had before, I bought 3 of them because when they would wear out or they went bad, I would
Yeah.
replace it with the exact same keyboard because I liked it so much. And I thought I was going to hate switching, but I decided to do it because of the problems I was having, and it took a little bit to
Obviously,
get
a pain
used
in
to.
your hands is more important.
Yeah,
than
yeah. So uh, the hardest thing the biggest problem I have with the new keyboard is typing my passwords. Otherwise, I'm great. Like I can type a novel on this thing, and it's great. But when I go to type my passwords, because there's letters in them, and there's muscle memory to passwords when the ones you have to type anyway.
Get a
That's the biggest
YubiKey
thing. I
or
have to stop and
something.
think about them. So anyway, that's kind of what's. Oh, and I got a new arm for my mic, which whatever if you care about that. It's nice and quiet now. I can
I care.
move. I can move the mic, and all you hear is like a slight bit of friction. Maybe you can't even hear it at all through the show. But yeah, it's so
Stop,
much.
It's so loud.
It's so
Ow.
much quieter, and I can you can still hear when I touch the desk, but with the old arm, which had those springs on it, you'd hear like every time I'd touch the desk or bump into the thing. It's so much nicer now. It's probably the same arm you have, Jason, because you and I bought them at the
Yeah,
same
it
time
is.
when we first
It
started the
is,
show.
yeah.
But you had, I'm sure you had the same problem. If you touched that thing, you just it would echo for 2 minutes.
Look, we all my woes of microphones are well documented throughout the course. Of
Yes, yes,
the
they
Iron
are.
Sysadmin podcast.
The Iron
Um,
Sysadmin documentary.
I would like to take this opportunity to point out that every single problem that was had today
was
had
mine.
nothing at all
Absolutely.
to do with me.
And you got a new mic. You want to talk about that?
I
And
did.
you also
I
have
did.
your own retro gaming system. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so here's my retro gaming system. It's in this box. It's
Probably the
also a
same
Pi
box
4.
Mark has.
I don't know. Probably not. So this is a Pi 4 with a hat on it. It's a
Oh, you got one of the audio
It
It is
hats.
slightly different.
the
Yeah,
audio, the high DAC.
Mine's just
audio
HDMI.
hat or whatever it is. Yeah. So I built a cabinet a while ago. I've talked about this on the show before. So I just went through getting graphics for it, putting the graphics on, and then so putting the graphics on the side runs into a problem where how do you put it on there without it peeling off, because it's just a vinyl sticker. So I decided I'll bite the bullet and I'll put the T-molding on it. And I've learned very rapidly that the type of router bit that you buy is extremely important, because mine warped in about half a second and I didn't know it. So my
Yeah.
T-molding kind of went like this. So I've sort of fixed it with lots and lots of glue, which apparently I'm not a real gamer, because that's a thing that you're not supposed to put T-molding in with glue. I should have done something else, but whatever.
How does that make you
So
a
that's
gamer?
all done now. That's all done now. It looks pretty nice. So I just have to put the guts back in it, and I'm off to the races. So I'm pretty happy about
Fantastic.
And yes, I have no idea if this is gonna make noise, but I bought a new microphone. I got a Yeti. It's a Yeti Nano. I was actually looking at the larger Yeti. Um, I forget which one it was, but the bigger one. It's got like a whole bunch of different signal types, and I saw the Yeti, and I was reading reviews. The Elgato had come out with a new mic that looked really cool and was supposed to be, had been getting high reviews. And I went and looked it up, and I started reading the reviews about it, and they said, yeah, it's a great mic. It's great for podcasts. It's completely awesome. The only problem is it's made of plastic. And for the cost of it, I didn't want a piece of plastic. So
Why not?
I looked around a little bit more, and they mentioned the Yeti Nano, which is like, I don't know, I think I could beat somebody to death with this. Um, it's like made out of steel, and it's really really nice. And I think, I mean, you'll tell me whether or not, but I think it sounds better than the microphone I had been using.
It does. It does sound better. It's also closer to you though, and that was one of the biggest things I always fought you with. Was
It
that you
is,
had your
well,
your mic mounted in a weird place.
it's not necessarily closer. It's the same distance away.
Don't be
It's,
judging a
the
man's
other mic
mic.
was sort of above me a little bit. This one's sort of in front of me. But I think even with this one, if I put it on the stand and let it hang like it was, I think this one will sound a lot better
It
because of
may,
the,
yeah.
the
I mean,
patterns that
we
that
can
it
certainly
does.
try that. But yeah, the mic I picked up a couple months back, the pod mic, is this thing is heavy. I mean, I don't know what it's made out of, but it is same deal, right? It is. It feels
Yeah.
like you could hurt somebody with this mic. It feels quality.
Which I think is the way a microphone is supposed to be.
Totally
I think you're
should. I
supposed
mean,
to
So
I'm
it's
beat
good
somebody
for
with it.
audio and home defense.
yeah, I'm
Yes.
picturing those. You know, like when you're at an arena and they lower that mic down from the rafters. That's like metal and big, and it looks like you could just like.
Now I got the guy in the boxing ring in my head.
Right, right. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
This corner.
Now you
Yeah.
just need the
Discord!
CRT monitor from back in the day.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. Back when if you wanted a 21-inch display, the hernia was included.
Yeah, right. So,
Oh.
Jason, if you want to put a link to the mic you bought, I just put a slug in the show notes there for you if you want to.
Now I gotta do work.
I mean, if you don't want to, that's fine. I'll just put new mic and people can wonder. But there you go.
It's a blue something. You could just say.
It sounds like it came from the snow
Blue
regions.
Yeti Nano.
Blue Yeti Nano. I will type that, and people can search for
Hey.
it if they want to.
I got
Jason, was it
I got
you who was talking about that book series with the laundry files, by the way?
the laundry files?
No, that was Charles, I
Uh,
think.
That
Oh,
was
Charles.
yeah.
Okay.
I've heard this. I've
Okay,
heard
other
this as well.
co-host.
But yeah.
All right, because I started reading the first book, and it's pretty cool. But that's a total that I just totally teenage girled everybody. You know, came from out of nowhere.
Completely off topic. Wow.
Completely off topic. Dude.
That I don't know how that would come from you.
I like turtles. Yeah.
I like
so-
turtles. All right. So, aside from all your home automation stuff, do you have anything cool going on, Avery? You want to chat about, or should we move along into the news?
Anything cool you want to chat about?
You don't have to
This
if you don't
is
want to.
I have a Pi too. I think we talked about it in the pre-show, but
Yeah.
this is a Raspberry Pi Zero, and I bought there's HDMI input for it,
Well, that's cool.
and I've installed I don't know what to call it, a distro, but there's it's called PiKVM, pikvm.org.
Right.
And when you install it on one of those things, you can plug in like your server and the micro USB to the back of your server or computer, and it pretty much turns it into a IPKVM. You have a like you can go to an IP on your network and control your server and stuff like that.
Huzzah!
If you mix it with a smart plug, then you can even pull the power in your machine and like turn it off and on.
That's cool.
It's really cool so I've started building this for one of my virtualization servers here at home.
That's pretty
Nice.
cool.
So
So
it's
your own little
pretty nice, and
KVM.
it's
I
yeah, and it's an IPK VM. I spend about, I don't know, $40 on it.
What do you use as virtualization servers at home, just out of curiosity?
Uh, KVM, Linux KVM.
but
So,
not that KVM, the other KVM. That's
The
the kernel
yeah,
virtual machine, not the keyboard, video,
exactly,
and mouse.
exactly.
no, I get no. So are you using Overt, the upstream Overt project for your?
I think it's libvirt.
He's just using
Okay,
libvirt, yeah.
Yeah,
Plain old Linux box with KVM.
yeah.
Okay,
I
groovy.
also I
That's
also
how I
have
got started.
I also have one machine running VMware ESXi for like
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, I don't know, it's not that bad. But I use it for like experimentation and certain stuff. I have everything here pretty much. I have domain controllers.
Yeah.
I have Linux, Windows, all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah, it's like a home lab to learn, to experiment. I even have Centos 8 streams.
Good, because we're going to talk about that in the news.
Streaming on prom
Yeah, see, like it's
night.
I set up a transition for you guys.
Perfect. Perfect transition. So, speaking of transitions, I think we'll go ahead and hit that purple button. Oh, wait, I got to get to the right panel on the soundboard here. Here it is.
Yes, press the button.
All right. So we have a shorter than usual set of news today, but the first article might take up a little bit of time. Not quite like last episode, where we went into a pretty heated discussion about free speech online and all kinds of nasty things that
It was a tense week.
it was a tense week. It was a tense week. So the news is a little more lighthearted, except we do have one article about Centos. So
Whatever.
this article is from the Register. There is a silver lining in this one, and we'll get to that in the second news article. So Brian Exelbeard, I think that's how you
He
pronounce
goes
that.
by Bex. That's his handle. Bex.
Bex. Okay.
BX.
So we did at least a very small amount of digging because we don't want to be like all weird and creeping on this guy. But
Internet
he is
stalky.
he is a Red Hat employee. He's the community business owner and RHEL product manager, senior principal product marketing manager at Red Hat. So he's got a little bit of cred behind him as far as what he knows and why he's talking about Centos, because the Register reports, and this is such a clickbaity title, even when you read the article, but I'm going to read it anyway because
Can I
it's the
just
title
throw a
of the
flag
article.
on the field, by the way?
You can do that. Go ahead. Throw
The,
a flag.
the Register is the National Enquirer of the tech
You
industry.
got a point.
So,
But somehow they got an
immediately don't-
interview. Somehow
Yeah.
they got an interview with Brian Exelbeard. So, right. So the killing of CentOS Linux, which it's not really being killed. I'm sorry. The
Lasers from outer
CentOS.
space killed Centos.
Yeah, the CentOS board
Yeah.
doesn't get to decide what Red Hat engineering teams do. And then the subheading is Brian Exelbeard, Red Hat liaison and CentOS board member, gives the company perspective. Now, I'll paraphrase a little bit. This article is basically, there's a lot of quotes in here from Brian. And what it really comes down to is there's a lot of accusations flying around. Did Red Hat do this intentionally to try to force people into RHEL?
No.
Why was it done? Yeah, right. The answer is no. Why did this happen? Why does Red Hat get to decide the direction of CentOS? We're not, although we kind of do. But, and I say we, I'm not speaking for Red Hat here. I probably shouldn't say we, but Red Hat doesn't. So here's the deal. Red Hat employees, software developers, engineers, right? We call them engineers, as many people might. Those engineers are then given tasks to work in certain communities for software that Red Hat then repackages and sells. RHEL is one of those things, comes from Fedora. OpenStack comes from an upstream community. OpenShift comes from an upstream community. Satellite comes from an upstream. They all come from upstream communities, and we basically pay software developers to work in those communities and to help develop those platforms. Now, that doesn't mean that we get control over those communities. Doesn't mean that Red Hat gets control over those communities. It means that we get we get leverage in those communities, but that's not intentional, right? It's Red Hat gets the focus on the things that are important to Red Hat, and if the community can't survive without that support, it's an unfortunate side effect, right? So, Mark, feel free to fill in here if you think I'm floundering, but
I'm gonna jump in as
I'm
the
just
not
letting
Red
you
Hat guy.
talk.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in
Yeah,
as the not
I
Red
feel
Hat
we need
guy.
a non-Red Hat voice in the
jump in as the not Red
So-
Hat guy.
I'm gonna jump in this way. Red Hat, for all intensive purposes, I know there's all sorts of stupid businessy crap associated with this, but for all intensive purposes, Red Hat owns CentOS. And as far as I am concerned, yes, I mean Red Hat should be prioritizing their engineers to do Red Hat things because, well, it's Red Hat. Um, but I think from my perspective, what has happened is Red Hat has basically said, yeah, we're not going to give you people who work for us to do anything CentOS wise, and we're just going to change the direction. And by the way, we own it and we can do that. Now, good or bad, I mean, there are positives to, I think, positives to moving to streams. Um, uh, Mark pointed one out previously, which is that, since it's getting patches slightly ahead of where Red Hat is getting them, and it's sort of a testing ground for Red Hat. I guess that is a positive for people that have been using CentOS as a drop-in replacement for RHEL. And yes, it's not 100%, but it's close enough. That's a problem because now it's no longer really a drop-in replacement for RHEL. So without being a Red Hat person and not knowing what's going on inside, I think at the higher echelon, Red Hat killed this, and I think they did it on purpose. And they can do that. They own it. They can do what they want with it, and that's fine. I think that this may not go in the direction they want it to. I think people are going to move away from Red Hat because of this, but that's sort of the dice they've cast, and they're going to see what happens.
Can I also say something?
Sure.
The company I work for, we have like thousands of Red Hat servers, and we also have thousands of CentOS servers for different cases. So I think, I mean, I understand why Red Hat is doing this because their engineers, they pay their engineers. They have, and obviously CentOS wasn't profitable. It didn't make any money, and the people who were using CentOS most likely would not pay for Red Hat because they use CentOS. So it makes I understand why they're doing it. Um, it's just I think if the order of the way things happened, if it happened in reverse, for example, the being able to use Red Hat Enterprise Linux for up to 16 servers, I think it's now, or it started with 10 or something. So I think if we started with that news, and then it would be easier to swallow the switch to streams. I think if the order was reverse, um, but I I mean, it makes sense. I understand why they did it. I mean, but it's also a little bit unfortunate. You for people that use the free alternative, there wasn't really an alternative. They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to find another home, I guess. But I also understand why Red Hat is doing what they're doing. Obviously, it wasn't a profitable.
So,
So I don't think like this. The article actually goes into this. There's quotes in here that say that it wasn't about profit. Like it, you're right. I mean, CentOS is not profitable to Red Hat, right? That flat out, like that's obvious, right?
Mhm.
But that wasn't why it was done. And in fact, there was a published email address that you can contact Red Hat about, like if you're floundering for alternative. And a lot of people accused Red Hat of, oh, well, that just goes to your sales and marketing team and they're going to try to sell us
No, it
RHEL.
doesn't.
And that's not the case. Like, that's also covered in this article. And this is all public information. This isn't stuff that I've gotten from internal sources. Mark, you were trying to say something if you want to go ahead and talk.
So, yeah, I'm going to try not to sound like I'm going to try to be nice about this.
Nice, Mark is always better.
Yeah. No, I can be nice about this. Um, for if companies were running hundreds of copies of CentOS in production and never had any intention of paying for a Linux and never contributed anything back, and now they're screwed because of this, I have no sympathy for them. Because that was always a risky proposition, and that was actually something that we would point out to potential Red Hat customers. Hey, you're running your money-making business on what's essentially a community build, and if that community build stops, if they stop that project or whatever, you're screwed. And the reality of the situation is CentOS was struggling when we bought it. It was not doing so great back when Red Hat first took them over. Red Hat arguably saved them. I think Red Hat should not have bought them. That's my personal opinion. I don't speak as a Red Hatter, because we got ourselves into a situation where suddenly we're putting time and money into something and we're not getting a benefit. And like it or not, we've always been a publicly traded company. We used to be on our own. Now we're part of a larger publicly traded company. So yeah, we have a finite amount of resources. As a technical account manager, I have large customers that pay a very nice amount of money for my services, and I have insight into how we make the sausage at Red Hat. There are only a finite number of engineering hours a week, and it's up to me to help try and get my customers' voices heard. So when I look at our finite engineering teams, they have a lot of friggin' work they still need to do on all of our products that actually do get that people pay us for already. So having them spend their time that Red Hat is paying for on CentOS when it was arguably not working the way an open source project is supposed to work was a bad investment. So let's talk about that for a second. We sponsor Fedora. Fedora is owned by the community. Stuff that happens in Fedora, we take that and we turn it into Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and then we give all those changes back to the upstream. But it's the circle of life. Because of where CentOS falls into that, CentOS is a downstream rebuild. So stuff that got changed in CentOS or whatever was never making it, was never that code. If someone fixed bugs in CentOS, it was never making it back upstream. And so it was a very one-way relationship. Now, Avery, you and I were talking a little bit before we went live, and your
Mm-hmm.
company, you said you've got a lot of RHEL. Thank you very much for buying RHEL, and you've got a lot of CentOS used for development.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the free offerings we're talking about is organization-wide free rev for development teams. So that instead of developing on CentOS, you could develop on real RHEL and still not have to pay. And that's a
Yeah.
discussion to have with your Red Hat account team.
Uh,
So
uh,
so
this is exactly what I said about the order of things. I think
yeah,
if that
do
if this information came out first and then the whole thing, like, I think the community would, I can say, I can't talk about other people, I can say about myself, it would make more sense. I knew what would happen,
yeah,
and I'd be obviously, like, it makes more sense for like a company like the company I work for. I can't speak for other people.
sure.
um
Now
yeah, but
d-
I fully agree with you that if a company is running like the business 100% on Cento, on like the a community build, they can take this community, they can also build this community build. They don't need, and the part that I didn't get from like the community is that they're saying like, oh, we're gonna pay this other company to build X Linux that will be uh, like the replacement for CentOS. So it's like you're paying, then just pay for the original product. Like I don't. It,
Yeah, well, that's just like revenge paying, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't know.
right. And
exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
Now,
yeah.
But
does Red Hat sometimes act a little naive? And was this communicated poorly? I think what we tried to do is we had the best of intentions of trying to get information out, and it wasn't massaged and it wasn't done in a slick marketing way, and I think that didn't help. And I don't know if I'm saying that the way I want it to come out. But yeah, I think we thought we were explaining things and that the nerds would get all excited, but instead what we really ended up, the message a lot of people heard is we are taking away this free thing that you like,
Right.
and then everybody who hates IBM and thinks IBM's trying to destroy us, latched onto that as a reason to cause agita. And
Oh, I
IBM
see.
had nothing to do with this.
So you confirm that it's IBM that did this. I see.
Oh,
Wait,
see?
wait, what? No.
yeah, confirmed here. Just kidding. No, I
No.
think I also
So-
think a lot of people got like misunderstood and started saying like, oh, so you're gonna use CentOS streams to be like a beta testers for like it. I think it
No,
just
and
that's not the
misunderstanding
case.
and it.
Yeah.
I know
And
it's not the
str-
case.
and
I've had to
strings isn't a
explain
beta.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
String-
I've had
I
to
think-
explain this to 2 customers already. That
Yeah.
Streams is not now somehow a beta. It is still receiving
obviously,
production
yeah.
bits that would have gone to RHEL. They're just going to Streams before they go to RHEL.
But this is just to reinforce what Mark said. Like there was no massaging. There was no like.
Right.
And
Yeah, I think the communication could have
peop-
been better,
yeah,
which
the-
I think is
Shitty
what you were.
communication, guilty as charged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bits that are going to go into RHEL go to streams first for
But
a period of
but-
time before they go to RHEL.
Yeah, but what you got to understand is they
almost
go
like
through,
a beta period, you might say.
I wouldn't call it that.
except that it has to pass through the same QE gates that it would
Yeah.
go through before it went to production.
So
realm.
this is
What we're
I
here's
agree.
what, but what
this
we're
is
not
data.
doing,
This is
Jason,
bits that would have gone to RHEL if CentOS Streams wasn't there, right? So it is.
No,
it's
no,
already
no,
tested all the normal
I
QA,
agree.
and
I'm-
argue with that all you
Yes.
want. That the
no,
QA
I'm
isn't
not
good enough.
arguing with it.
No,
What
I'm
saying is
I'm
that-
speaking for the
No.
for the listeners, right? So, like, just put it this way, right? There is a process in which software goes through before it gets to RHEL, right? It's got bug testing. It's sent to specific customers that are willing to test software for
It
us.
starts in
That's the
Fedora
beta.
as well, no?
Not even
Sorta.
So, well, right. Some of it does. Some of it comes from Fedora first. But if it's a bug fix specific to a RHEL package, it'll go, into, there'll be a Bugzilla, there'll be work done on it that gets released into what will then become a package for RHEL. And then usually the customers that asked for the fix will have a chance to test it. That's the beta. I'd say
Yes,
that's the
and
beta.
then what
Right?
you're doing is you're adding an additional step, an additional not a gate, but you're adding an additional step and arguably additional time. So
what
product
what
X
we're
has a
really doing is
problem.
we're taking stuff that would have been a dot release and just releasing it as it's ready from a quality perspective.
Yes, and then eventually when you have enough of that stuff for a dot release, then you do your dot release.
Right.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, it hits CentOS first. It's not a beta, a gamma. Okay? It's a gamma.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, there you
it's,
go.
it's not released yet.
Should you run
It's
it
a
in
gamma.
production? Probably not. But it
But
fits,
CentOS
I think
wasn't.
I think it
wasn't
fits better
supposed
in the.
to-
I think it fits better in the. I'm sorry, I keep stepping on you, Avery. I think
It's
it
all
fits
right.
better in the software lifecycle in the CentOS stream spot because it's slightly ahead of production, and your testing code is usually slightly ahead of production.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a decent spot to be in. And yes, CentOS, I don't know, I'd argue that CentOS could have been run in production because it was a respin of
And this is
RHEL
This is
production.
the same thing I've said even to customers, right? CentOS, you could argue, was a more stable platform than RHEL before this change. Because everything that came to RHEL, right, would then go to CentOS. So if there was a package that came to RHEL and a problem was noticed in it immediately, right? Because it goes out to millions of
Yeah.
customers, right? That may never have got to CentOS until it was fixed in RHEL and then got to CentOS.
Yeah. The problem, of course, being that
Yeah, you got
security.
patches like
Right.
the stuff would trickle down slower. Yeah,
Right.
Right.
but
Right.
but I mean it. I mean I've seen bugs that like even if you do testing and you have like you have pre-releases that you have custom selected customers that get early, like stuff is missed everywhere. There are
Yeah.
bugs.
Yeah, it
There are
happens.
security things that there were like sudo had a security vulnerability that like was there for
Yep.
like God knows how many years.
We're gonna talk
So
about that later. Don't let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
oh, I didn't see. I didn't see. But I was just saying like software is gonna have bugs. So like saying it's gonna happen anyway. But people like it's still open source. Like at least it's that. If people want to package it, they can. Like
I'm too lazy to compile it
so
myself.
I just want
Yeah.
my free stuff, and then I'm upset that I don't get my free
Well,
stuff on
so,
Yeah, and-
so
the terms that I wanted.
here is where I don't I look. It was a free ride for a while. It's great. It's gone. Yeah, I can complain about it. I really have no leg to stand on. Here's what I'm missing. Here's what I need. So I have there's a project that I work on. Yes, it is a commercial company. And there are hundreds of devices that are deployed, and we put a version of something on those devices. Centos was the intended new replacement that we were going to use, which we are not using anymore because, well, I'm not going to put streams on it. But the intention was to put that on there. These are devices that are not they're you have to yes they're servers, but they're not servers, right? So server to me is it's in a data center, it's running big stuff, it's intended for massive use, it's not.
So it's like an edge
These are
device.
It's an edge device. These are glorified Raspberry Pis at the edge that I need
Okay.
I'm looking for a stable operating system, but I don't need everything. I need a kernel, and I need a container, Docker running on it is really all I need. Um, and CentOS was perfect for that.
Yeah.
And I have been a Red Hat person since I've been doing Linux. But CentOS is gone now. Fedora, for me, for this particular uh, project, is too bleeding edge. It's not stable enough. I am forced to find something now to use for that. And like I said, I've been sticking to Red Hat, Red Hat, whether it's CentOS or Fedora or Red Hat, itself, forever, because that's what I like. That's what I use. That's been everything that I've been doing for years. Now I'm starting to have to look at other things. What else is out there? Debian, Ubuntu.
So why not use so why did you say you don't want to use streams? Because you think it's too bleeding edge?
Yeah, why not streams? That's my question too.
Because it's not it's the way that it was sold is that it's not a stable, like there is going to be no CentOS 8. Now it's streams.
Yeah.
It's just going to
Yeah,
get
so
updated
The
forever.
stream will still have a major version number. It'll be
And-
based on the RHEL. It's CentOS
and
Streams
reg-
8 now, and it'll be CentOS Stream 9 when we release RHEL 9. It still is part of a major version.
And regardless of if it's RHEL or streams or whatever else, you should do like if you release and like before you patch, you want to do like a stage rollout. You want to test. Like if you have your like for example, we're a software company, so even if we like the latest rail, we have to check that it's not going to break our software before like stuff like that. So it doesn't
And
matter
maybe-
if it's rail or stream or whatever. Like you still have to check that it's going, like you do a stage rollout, you test it before.
What
like,
you
Yes,
could
yeah,
what
yeah,
you
of
could
course.
absolutely do here is, and whether you're going to use something like Catello or Satellite to do this or not, is you can version lock the packages, right? You have a package set that you like, that you have tested, that you have deemed stable. that's what you release to all your devices. And then you do that same QA testing every time you have a new package set.
Maybe this is just the messaging. I mean, the messaging to me sounded like CentOS is no longer. I mean, the way that Red Hat sort of laid it out, it sounded like CentOS. We're not going to release versions of CentOS anymore. It's going to be this streams thing, and it's not going to be usable as CentOS anymore.
But I mean, even if it is the streams thing, right? It's still going to be usable. I mean, if we made it to the point where you can't use this anymore, it's not gonna benefit anybody.
Fair enough.
You know. So
and then if nobody's using it, like there's no point keeping it alive anyway. Like,
right.
It's...
Now, don't even say that because there's going to be like, oh, that's the plan.
Okay. I don't think it's the plan.
We want to kill it.
The Red Hat guys said that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I mean, we have so many like good technologies now with like BTRFS and things and like stuff that does snapshotting and I mean and what I like, by the way, you said like you're planning to use something like Docker. It's or containers make the OS less relevant than ever. Like
you can use the RHEL. You can use the RHEL UBI. We have the universal base image to build a RHEL container from, and that's completely free to use and redistribute with no restrictions at all.
I would love a link to that because the last time I looked into the UBI, you had to have a RHEL. You had to have a relationship with Red Hat and a subscription to even get close to it. And I have not looked at it since.
So I'm gonna drop the the link to it in general in Discord.
Okay.
Discord. It's when we introduced it in May 7th
of this year.
Actually, never heard of UBI, so thank you.
May 7th, 2019 was the blog that Scott wrote, and then it links you to it.
To be fair, I have not had a Red Hat salesperson or whatever.
Yeah, you haven't been involved in an official.
I have not been involved officially with Red Hat in since before 2019. But the last time I talked to them, which I think was actually 2018, when I talked to them at the time, the Red Hat base image was a pay for play.
No, the UBI was introduced in 2019. Check out that blog by Scott McCarty, who is a good guy.
So anyway, this transitions well into the next article that I have. I think we've really beaten this one to death. And that is, and again, call it whatever you want, but there's now a no-cost option for RHEL for up to 16 machines.
Red Hat?
Yeah, more Red Hat, and then we're going to go on to other things. We can certainly talk about something else. I just wanted to sort of tack this on because it was mentioned in the article from the Register. It's also mentioned that there could be more free content coming, although there's really, I don't have any of that information. I don't know if you do, Mark.
No, I like working at Red Hat. I'm not saying anything else.
Right, that's mentioned in the Register's article. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. So at any rate, there are now no cost options for production RHEL. I think it's up to 16 servers. All you really need to do is register through the developer portal. Remember there was that developer program that came out, I don't know, like 2 years ago now, where you could use for development purposes RHEL for free. Well, now that extends...
I actually have a question.
Sure.
What about, like, a lot of companies have, like not for resale licenses or for, home labs, for, like, people that want to. Does Red Hat have anything like that for like to get free licenses if you want to? Let's say you want to spin a Red Hat virtualization server or something outside, like not a business, but more on a like personal, learn the system kind of.
So that's what
we've had that for years. Oh my God, that's the dev subscription. That's 3 years old. You go to nursery school now.
But does it cost? Do you have to pay for it, or is
no? That's free. The developer subscription is free. But does it cover things like Rev or just RHEL?
Just RHEL. But you can run KVM hosted VMs on that RHEL instance.
Yeah. So for several years now, you can run RHEL for free.
Check the blog link that Nate put in the show notes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so
about
there's
the
mentions.
offerings.
In fact, I think if you just go to what is it,
We do such a
developer.redhat.com.
shitty job communicating some of this stuff.
Yes, yeah, this has been around for a while. I've even taken advantage of it before I was an employee because now obviously I can use all the rel I want. Haha.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Oh, haha. I stand up JBoss instances and destroy them just because I can.
just because you don't like JBoss, you just want to go. You
I
just want to
never
watch
actually,
it
I've never
explode.
actually used JBoss in my life.
Neither have I.
So,
Well, actually, I have because it was the base of the Rev Manager for a while. Maybe it still is.
well, I didn't use it on
Yeah,
its
this
own.
stuff
Yeah.
probably needs like better because it's like for example with Ubuntu, like it's really easy to go get like a server copy that's supposedly like you can play with and learn stuff.
Yeah, you can do that
But
with. You've been able to do that with the RHEL developer sub for 3 years
Yeah,
I'll check
that's
it
been
out.
around for a
for
little
free.
while. But and again, poor communication, right? So I knew about it
Yeah.
because I was part of the accelerators and it was presented to us there.
It'd be cool if there
like,
would be like a page somewhere that aggregates all these like cool stuff.
be-
But yeah.
be weird. Maybe we should start a podcast that talks about this stuff.
redhat.com/cool stuff.
Yeah.
So-
Slash
so-
give me the
so-
free stuff.
So I pulled the UBI image and I have it running right now. And
Ta-da!
It's like 100 meg and it appears to be free.
Yay.
It is
Nice.
free. There's no hidden trap.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
not.
charm.
It's not appears to be. It
Well,
is.
so-
it is.
so-
Mark doesn't want to sell
like-
you anything.
What is include? I mean, there's things that I'm curious about. So if this is RHEL, like what is include? I have the UBI repo. Does that mean I have full access?
I'm not
to
a
the,
developer. I don't know. You got to poke at it. But the idea was
poking at it.
people would build containers using Ubuntu, and we're like, let's give them a RHEL universal base image to build containers, so that developers will use RHEL instead.
Yes, please. Yeah. The 800 meg images that I get because somebody built on Ubuntu is killing
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
And
it
you
has,
can
it
use
has
the
like
and
a
if you
breakdown
need the
here.
full RHEL distro, you can use the developer sub to get the full RHEL distro and build your container images using the UBI.
It looks
Or
like
now you
UBI
can
has
get
access
production
to
as
like
well.
the whole distro.
Well, fantastic. You're
Yay.
welcome.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Now
Yes, I will start using that.
You've learned
You know how
something.
much money I just
Good.
made Red Hat? None.
Free Iron Sysadmin consulting services.
Oh, but I want some mind share. Yay.
Yeah.
That's like influence.
Like
Can I spend my influence to get a free room at your hotel now?
Absolutely.
I am on board with paying Red Hat for
I'm
RHEL
teasing
and
with you right
support and
now.
everything else for established companies that can do that. And
That's our real customers. We're not
Yeah,
trying to nickel dime Joe who owns a little corner store. These psychotic people who think that we're trying to force people who are using 4 or 5 CentOS boxes to pay for full RHEL. No,
Yeah.
they're not worth it.
It's like
No
a
offense.
guy.
And even still, that's like a couple $100 a year, isn't it?
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
a RHEL
I don't
sub?
know if you remember this, Nate, but I'm the guy who tore apart Cisco Mars. So back in the day, Cisco had this horrible SIM product called Mars. I forget what it stood for, but it was disturbing.
It was out there,
So
like Mars.
Yeah, I sort of maybe tore it apart trying to figure out because it was broken and I had to fix it.
And Cisco support
and
sucks.
It spun up and started, and it ran CentOS. And all I could think is, are you kidding me? We paid tens of thousands of dollars for this stupid thing to Cisco that makes billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they're not paying for a Red Hat license? What? kind of
No,
bullshit
why
is
would
this?
they? It's margin.
I
And you know what? It's open source. I mean, this Raspberry Pi, none of the software on here is paid for because the software,
It's open
like
source.
RetroPie, is open source.
Yeah.
Elevator Action, is that open source? Well, that's later for an episode later.
That's another episode. But no, I don't disagree. I just
cuffed me.
when a company gets to the point where they're big enough to be able to handle that stuff, they should be paying for the shit they use.
Yeah,
This is why I
paid
don't know
for
the
it's like
business.
the paid forward concept, but yeah.
And Red Hat,
Sort of.
we we do an awful lot of good. I still believe that, and we support a lot of open source upstream projects with real money and real resources. The CentOS decision, you might disagree with it. Maybe we messaged it bad, but we're not suddenly the evilest company in the world because of it. No, I
No,
don't
that's
accept
Oracle.
that.
Yeah, we can certainly be more like Oracle if that's what everybody wants.
Look at these screaming butthurt billionaires after the shenanigans of the past few days.
Look, I don't think you quite understand how many boats they own and how many boats they're going to have to sell now that they
Yeah.
don't have this money.
I'm crying many tears for them.
Many tears. So anyway, let's move into less treacherous waters for a change, and then we'll get back to treacherous waters. But
Oh,
for the
dude,
moment,
it's like 10 o'clock. We've
the
recorded
moment-
for 2 hours and 20, so we got to wrap this thing real soon, I think.
yeah.
right?
So this one's very simple, and I only included it because I think it's a feature that should have been included a very long time ago in Android.
Long time ago.
This is from 9 to 5 Google, and apparently with Android 12, they're going to start including an actual in-depth theming system where you can actually, do things like choose the color of the UI. It seems simple, but it seems like something that should have existed forever, especially on a platform like Android, and I don't know why it didn't. So, hey, it's coming.
Especially when
Hey.
there are like third-party apps that do the same
Yes.
thing, like Substream and all kinds of open source.
Does anybody else notice that Nate, every couple of episodes, he needs to throw in some goofy Android thing like, oh, there's going to be new emoticons.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
that's,
I saw
I have-
this article.
I have a search
looked at
alert for
this-
Google, and I have another one for Android. And when I come across things that like this that are like so ridiculous that I just have to talk about them, I include them in the
Okay.
show.
So it's intentional. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw this article. I looked at this article. I sort of like tried to figure out what this article meant, and I went,
It means you can
I
change the
have
color on
never-
Android.
I have never asked for this feature ever.
I need it.
Dude,
I
think
changed
about
everything.
think
I
about your
changed
operating
everything to,
system,
like,
right? So
100% black. Like
You're-
Like your heart.
your
I like
UI
it black.
on your desktop, right? You have been
Yep.
able to theme that forever.
Dark mode.
Right.
You know how many times
Dark
I've done
mode
that?
is a thing that has not shown up on Android until about 3 or 4 years ago. What
Yeah.
the hell?
When I was a teenager and I thought I was cool, I would theme my operating system with different colors.
You
Now-
were a teenager.
Now I changed my background, and that's about the end of it.
Yeah,
because
you're the
rest
one
of
that
it
has,
works.
like,
I'm
a-
the same. I'm the same friggin' way, by the way.
I can
if the
if it's
app
not
has
like
crappy-
fully dark, then it burns my eyes. Like,
Right.
This,
If the app has shitty colors, that's probably indicative of other problems with the app, and I just ditched the app entirely.
Is that Harper?
No, it's not. That's the other one.
Here.
But yeah, Google is messing
Uh-oh.
with Android too much. It's like
She's
they
dancing
keep
behind you,
messing
waiting
with
for an
things.
opportunity to yell into the microphone.
I thought I heard an angry mother.
You should build.
Nope.
You should build a home automation on air like smart light.
No. What I need is a magnetic lock on that door.
You could do that, and every time and have it like so every time you go live, it automatically closes.
No, I mean honestly, whatever,
You know,
whatever. I've got a
regular
family. If
lock.
anyone's gonna get
I
mad
know,
that
I
they
know, I'm
barge
just
in on the
kidding.
podcast, so be it. But yeah,
Dave,
it
they're
is-
not listeners we want anyway. They're like those CentOS users that aren't giving back.
or the ones who don't like your singing.
yeah.
Hey,
Oh
I'll
no,
have you
someone who's
know,
not paying us money is going to switch to another Linux distro where we won't get money. Whatever shall
Whenever-
we do?
Whenever I found a bug in CentOS, I immediately complained about Red Hat. So
Yeah.
Mm.
As
Yeah,
you
so-
should. You totally should.
So we're gonna go to the last one.
Yeah, so the last one is maybe you've heard about this. There's this weird bug from like 10 years ago that still exists in this completely trivial and non-important program called sudo. I
What
don't
is
even.
that?
Are you guys familiar with what
Is
sudo
that the
does?
thing with? Is that the thing when you ask your wife to
Nobody-
make you a sandwich?
Yeah,
and
that's the
then
thing
she-
that,
Yes.
that you can force things to
nobody
make you a
uses
sandwich.
Sudo.
That would-
Nobody uses sudo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I grant
you just
grant
ask you to root and be
privileges
done
to
with
my
it.
end users by just giving them root's password.
I
Why
just
would I
log
use
in as
sudo?
root. Like, why would? Yeah, it's just another command. You have to type every time.
So, I find this really ironic. And by the way, this article's from ZDNet. 10-year-old sudo bug lets Linux users gain root level access. Now, I haven't dug deeply into exactly how to execute this flaw, but it seems really ironic to me that a bug in sudo allows privilege escalation.
It's
I don't
not
know,
the first one, by the way. There was one like I don't know, like a
Sudo,
year
you had
ago or
one
something.
friggin' job.
Yeah, right, right.
Well, yeah. A certain enterprise vendor that I work for has already delivered patches for it. So if you're one
Yes,
of my
indeed.
customers listening, update your damn sudo.
Yes, update
The
your
only
systems.
the only thing I want to ask you guys about this is that like there's this a lot of times when people talk about open source, they say, like, for example, when this whole debacle with SolarWinds happened, it's like, oh, it's because they're not open source, this and that, and closed source, and then something like this happened where it's full, the code is open, everybody can look at it, and you still find bugs like this.
The same conversation came about around the time of Heartbleed. You remember Heartbleed?
Yeah,
Where it's like,
exactly.
the open source model is supposed to be everyone can see the code, so bugs like this shouldn't happen. And I don't know about sudo, but in the case of Heartbleed, it was OpenSSL is being developed by like one guy, right? This thing that everyone depends on. Everyone just like the whole freaking internet, the security and cryptography of the whole freaking goddamn internet depends on OpenSSL, right? And there's like two guys working on this thing. Now that's not to say
like
there aren't
the one
other
guy who worked on NTP for years.
right. So it's that's not to say there's no other contributors, but the core project is operated by these two guys, and
And it's not a sexy project. Little
Right.
14-year-old Tommy who's trying to get into computers
doesn't look
is
at
not going to
OpenSSL.
be like, I want to contribute to OpenSSL. No, he
Right.
wants to like build a friggin' Minecraft server.
Right. So
And-
I don't know
and-
what the state of the sudo project is, but I got to imagine
Boring.
it's similar.
Yeah,
right?
let me put it this way. Yes, these were major flaws that affected everybody, and they had been there for a long time. These are not trivial. This is not a simple buffer overflow, or like it is.
You mean it won't do anything if you
Well,
just type
actually,
real
I think-
fast like you're in a movie?
It is
in
these are
green
not-
text with a hoodie
They're
on.
not trivial. Like beginner programmers should be able to see this a million miles away. Like these are pretty complicated bugs. Yes, it may be super easy to use them. I'm reading through the sudo one, and it's basically like the bug has to do with escape characters that are in a certain part of the string, but if they're unescaped, then they're escaped, and then they're re-unescaped, and then escaped again. Like,
Obviously,
Jesus.
it's not.
Are
It's
you
not.
kidding
I'm
me?
not saying it's. I'm not saying it's easy, but like I'm saying, like, there's. I think a lot of people have like this fake sense. Well, I don't know if fake,
Yes.
but incorrect sense of security when they say, like, oh, this issue with SolarWinds happened because they're closed source, and then we also have problems, and the fact that it's open source, yes, sometimes mean that like these problems are being found, but also in some cases it means that like you can have something like this for 10 years and not being found.
So
yeah, I think the argument of closed versus open source, when it comes to a security perspective, I've always seen that as a very weak argument, right? So you can have
Or a bonus,
major,
like
yeah, you
security
can
by
have
obscurity doesn't work.
you can have major vulnerabilities like this in any software project, right? And while I obviously support the open model more than I support the closed model, I also feel like hiding your code behind, the compiler, right, is not a good way to get your. I'm just not wording this properly.
Yeah,
one could
I-
argue
I-
that this
by
is
the way-
the same. Yeah.
by the way, I'm like, me, I'm like full open source, I'm
Yeah.
all up for it, but I'm just saying, like, I think in this case, and you used an example like Harbly is a very good example, that people think that just because something is open source and people can see the code, it means it's more secure. And obviously, it doesn't mean every software has bugs.
Yeah.
And there's a higher chance that somebody can look at the code and find the bug if it's open source. But it doesn't mean that like you're not going to have security problems
Yeah, and
because it's open
it also
source.
doesn't mean that anybody actually is looking at the code.
Looking, exactly. That's true. Yeah.
I think it's just a wonderful example of pride goeth before the fall, because people get all high and mighty. Oh, with open source, there's it's these problems don't happen, and then the universe says fuck you, and then you fall on your face.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, what it comes down to is computers are hard.
Yeah.
I always do that in the
exactly.
voice. Computers
hardware
are
is harder.
hard. And to Jason's point, you know, this stuff is complicated. It really, really is. So, how did you even stumble into this bug, right?
All you
Yeah,
have to
right.
do
This
is
isn't just a
type
typo.
This string into your
Yeah, but
console to check
how
if
did
it's
someone figure that out? You know?
Yeah, it's I don't know, fuzzers or something. I have no idea.
Yeah,
how you
that'll
find
do
these
it.
Things. Yeah, like, but I mean, it's good that
That
these
would
things
do
are
it?
found.
Fuzzers,
That-
yeah.
that-
I mean, they can. I mean, fuzzers basically throw garbage at the input, right?
And see when the computer crashes, and when it crashes, it like somebody goes and looks and see
like
try
look,
to-
yeah, what crashed it? Now why, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
But
but now it's fixed. So,
But-
there's
Indeed.
that.
It is indeed
Yeah.
fixed.
and obviously with we have like live kernel patching. Like there's a package like this is fairly trivial to patch. Like you don't have
Live kernel patching. There's a thing that I have
This
been
isn't
hearing
even part.
about
This isn't even
for
part of the
so
kernel.
long and
This is
haven't
just the
seen.
pseudo package.
No, this one is not. But I'm saying if
Yeah.
if
No,
it
no,
is
I-
like
I-
a kernel bug.
So
Yeah, okay, I
I
see what
know
you're saying.
of live kernel patching. I've seen it in action. I don't know of a single vendor that does it.
Red Hat does it.
I know.
So
yeah.
I can download an RPM or something to live kernel patch.
For certain
Yeah, for certain
type-
fixes,
for
yeah.
certain patches. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
every single.
Like a
Yeah,
one.
not
Credit-
like everything, but yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to reboot with it. You have to install the real thing and reboot within 30 days to still be supported.
Yeah.
It
so,
only
Otherwise,
delays
you
the
reboot
inevitable
and it will
reboot.
disappear.
So
yeah.
it's a supported thing. It's not like an RPM that you get or that's in the.
It
No,
does.
in
They are
the
delivered in
normal
the form of an
repos.
Yeah.
RPM. Yes.
it
but
exactly is
not-
an RPM.
But every single thing, every single that we release is not necessarily a K patch.
Right.
Only
Right.
certain ones are.
Right. So like critical fixes and whatever can come as a K patch. You can install it. It'll fix you live. But in order to truly fix it and get the updated kernel, you need to install the
You need
kernel
to reboot
and
the
reboot.
machine.
So
yeah.
I mean, when you install the K patch, it'll lay the new code down, but you have
Oh,
to
yeah,
reboot
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. No, I understand I understand how it works and everything behind it. I just
Yeah.
haven't seen many companies like there was a
I
big
think it's
that's because
push for
in
it a number of years
in,
ago, but nobody ever really did anything.
in
with it.
most use cases you can schedule a downtime and do the right
Yes,
patch.
Because-
exactly.
but
It's
there's
very
and-
critical.
yeah.
and the time of this computer has an uptime of 4 years and that's something to be proud
That's-
of is
yeah, I was
is
just gonna
long
say
past.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I laugh at people. Oh, my uptime's 2 years. Oh, so you've got that system's riddled with
You've
security
got
holes.
2
for
years of
really
security
2
problems you
Oh,
haven't
that's a
fixed.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I judge you.
And now with the whole kernel, pet versus cattle mentality,
That
it's
argument,
even less
right?
relevant than ever.
Systems live for minutes and die by design.
Yep. So,
All right. So
the pseudo thing is an issue. If you run Linux, you have this problem.
Update.
It is a
Yes,
it is
update.
it is a definite part of an escalation chain. So just
Yes.
because you think you don't have
In fact, I
users
should
on your
update my
box,
Fedora
you
machine
do.
right now.
indeed, I should update my laptop.
Isn't it funny that you have to type sudo to update sudo?
Right.
That is ironic.
Weird.
Of course, the
Here.
proper way to fix this is to uninstall sudo and only use the root account.
Yeah. Right. You wouldn't be vulnerable.
Yeah, just log in as root all the time.
Wouldn't
Yes,
be vulnerable if
yes.
you didn't run sudo.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it updated my sudo package right there.
There you go. So this has been a crazy evening, and we've run long, of course, as usual.
Who
we
cares?
might be over 2 hours and 20 minutes at this point, including the break that we took out.
Who the hell knows? It's been
Who
fun.
knows? Who knows at this point? But it has been a good conversation on all points. Maybe one of these days we'll try to get the show down to a reasonable time. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
We've asked people like it like this. Avery,
Why
you're
should-
welcome anytime, dude. Such
Yeah,
a
this was
pleasure to
fun.
have you. What time is it for you right now, by the way,
like 3
over in
a.m.?
Israel?
I'll tell you. In a
He's like, I don't want to
second.
know. Then I'll feel tired.
It's 5:13
Oh my
in the morning.
gosh.
But
Oh, so
I
you're,
don't.
and how old's
but-
your kid?
It's 3.
So you're not
So he's
actually
about to
going to
wake
sleep
up.
tonight.
But
You're not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry
But
we
it's
kept
o-
you so
but-
late.
It's okay, but luckily you guys do it on Thursdays, and here in Israel we don't work Friday and Saturday. So
Dude, I'm moving to Israel.
so our
The Sabbath, right?
yeah, so our Saturday, Sunday is Friday and Saturday, so it's kind of nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Just moved back a little bit.
So you still have a
Shabbat?
5-day work week.
Something
all
like
right.
that?
Hmm?
Good Shabbat? Is that how you
Yeah.
say it?
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, again, my wife and I love schnitzel. I'm probably
Yeah?
saying it wrong, too.
Oh, it's the best thing, schnitzel.
Good
but,
show.
yeah, you guys, I don't know, are always welcome after the pandemic and God knows what.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to go to Israel.
One day, I'll definitely be flying over.
We'll make an Iron Sysadmin pilgrimage to Israel. Does that sound like a good idea?
I can do it virtually.
The funny thing is in like I haven't been to my office in like a year, but in the same like 3 blocks we have Microsoft, Apple, VMware, the company I work for. I think Red Hat is also in the same like area. It's like
There you go. We'll visit the Red Hat offices there,
Yeah.
and we'll just make a trip of it.
Any excuse, right?
Any excuse. All right,
Yeah,
so this has been a great show. I think we're going to go ahead and close it up. It's great topics as always, and great commentary for the news and whatnot. So, the usual closing stuff. If you want to watch us live, you can do so on the second and fourth Thursday of every month on both YouTube and Twitch at this point. If you want to join our community, you can do so now via Discord. Discord. I'm gonna pronounce it. I'm gonna pronounce it in the worst ways possible, just to bother Uncle Mark.
It doesn't bother me now.
And then I'm gonna do
It's kinda
this.
like-
You can find us on the social medias, Facebook and Twitter. Just look for the Iron Sysadmin podcast. And of course, if you want to support the show via Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/ironsysadmin. And with that, I think we've covered just about everything. And we may as well call it a night. Anybody have some final words?
I'll see you on the disc rods.
see ya.
The disc rods?
The
This
disc
cross.
All right.
All right. Good night, everybody. I gotta
Peace.
find the right scene to switch to. All right. See ya.